Going live on whoops. Yeah, we're going live on everything right now. Sweet. So on your MotoTrax Facebook page, cool. Well, as people are joining in, we'll kind of just give it a few minutes because it seems like it always takes like a solid 5 minutes before people actually get the notification.
Oh, that it's actually live.
Yeah, it always takes a minute. Just people are already starting to pop in there. Yep, 8 people. Yeah. What up, guys? Yeah, as you're joining the live feed here, if you guys just leave a message, let us know you can hear us, that you can see us, that everything looks good. So this time, and I'll say this again here in a minute, but guys, I'm gonna do it a little different. If you do have questions at any point during the call, just leave them. And then what I can do is I can highlight them and put them on the side so that we can answer them as we're going through the call. Because I know how it is. Some people like you forget what you're gonna ask or whatever. So go ahead and ask away. So Jason, where are you from, Jason? Thanks, bro. I've never met Jay. Well, I don't know. I don't think I've met him. But yeah, where are you? Do you know Jason? JP?
Yeah,
Van
you met
Luden?
Jason last.
I did?
He came snowbiking with us in Whitefish.
Oh yeah, duh. Jeez, wow. That's right. Dude, sorry, Jason. I meet too many people. I'm terrible with names too. I got my sparkling water with double take mirror. Where's my camera? Here's my camera. These guys, man, can you guys see this? Double take mirror. They're legit. Like I've got them on my dual sport, on my dirt bikes, and I'm putting them on my snow bikes because when I'm riding along on a snow bike tour, and I'm like trying to turn around and look at people and stuff. So I have my little mirror now that I'm going to use. What's going on, John? John's over on the East Coast. John, did you get your bike set up yet? Where are you at, bro? I think you texted me the other day, dude. Sorry. I've been so bad about getting back to text messages lately. Yeah. Also, guys, when you're joining, leave a comment of where or what kind of bike you have, what kind of kit you have. And that's always fun to see everybody's setup. And like I said, you can leave your questions as we're going along here. All right, dude. Well, we'll just let people filter in. Let me pull up my list here. John, you're coming here. Oh, in December. Nice. A 20. Jason's got, oh yeah, that's right. He's got the FX 450. Dude, I kind of want to get a Cowie this year. I'm really considering getting another Cowie.
Yeah, the new Cowies are sick, man. The center exhaust port, tuck that exhaust in nice and tight on there. I think it's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I freaking love my Cowies, man. I was a little bummed like when I got rid of my 2 last year. But they just don't make very good dual sport bikes. So
Yeah. No, I've got my KTM that my trail bike is. I'm rebuilding the engine, so I've been riding the Cowie as a trail bike a little bit this summer, and it's kind of a handful. Yeah.
Oh yes, me and the Cowie, we go way back, way back. So JP, as people are kind of getting in here, let's go ahead and just get things kicked off. So go ahead and if you can introduce yourself, JP. You know where you're at, like where you live, and where MotoTrax HQ is at.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name's JP Stanek. I'm the owner of MotoTrax. We are just outside of Spokane, Washington, in a little city called Cheney. That's where we're doing some of our manufacturing, all the assembly, shipping kits out from here, and running the whole show from here.
And you're new to that area, and we'll get into the whole how you came to get over there. But yeah, you guys are doing everything is right there, right? Like you guys are all the manufacturing, assembly, everything.
Yep. All the, the parts are made, either in Spokane or in Moscow, Idaho, which is just south of us a little bit. So, everything's local here in the Pacific Northwest. And, all the manufacturing, assembly, shipping, all that stuff's going on right here.
Hell yeah. That's super cool, man. Another company that's got all the American made stuff. So you have, what's made in Moscow?
Just machine parts, they're machine shop stuff. So some of the billet components are made in Moscow. Some of them are made up here in Spokane.
But yeah, everything's in the States.
Everything's in the States. Camso makes our tracks. Camso makes everybody's tracks, and a lot of that, stuff comes from Canada. But there's just no options to get a track made here in the U.S. And it kind of depends. Some of Camso's manufacturing is done in the U.S. Some of it's done up in Canada. So it just kind of.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. But yeah, Camso makes all the tracks for everybody.
Yeah. I think, they're headquartered in the U.S., but I think a lot of their manufacturing is actually done up in Canada.
So, guys, I just want to tell you real quick how JP and I met. So last year when I was getting all, we're getting set up, getting our kits, and I was doing some announcements like, hey, we're going to have all the kits this year. Here's what we're doing. And JP reached out to me. He's like, I want one of my kits. And I was like, I didn't even know MotoTrax was still here. I was like, I thought they were gone. Like that was everything I had heard was like, oh yeah, MotoTrax was kind of just going bye-bye. You didn't really hear a whole lot of chatter about them after. I don't remember the exact timeline. I think it was probably like 2021, maybe even 2020 when I feel like we kind of stopped hearing about them as much. And guys were like, no, I still get parts or whatever. So JP reached out to me, talked to him, and I was like, dude, like, what's the deal? MotoTrax is still around. So then JP told me his whole story, which I'm going to let him tell it. And then last year I went to the Spokane Snow Show, and that's where I met. I got to meet JP in person. It's only 3-4 hours from where I'm at in Kalispell. And so I got to hang out with JP, interviewed him. We did a whole video, which we're actually producing at right now still. And so we should have that done in the next like 3 weeks, I think. And so that'll be really fun. So got to go there, meet JP, see the kits. I had never ridden a moto. No, I take that back. I had ridden a MotoTrax kit one time, a buddy of mine. It was on his Husaberg. I want to say it was a 380, 390. Ammon, if you're on here, say hi because it was Ammon's bike. And it was one of the first models. And it had some issues. It just kept trenching real bad. And it was just like he could get around and hang out with us, but it just wasn't as efficient. And so, that was kind of my first like taste of MotoTrax, so to speak. But I knew guys were using them to race. Darren Meese, right? Darren Meese?
Yeah.
Darren Meese. He raced MotoTrax for a while. I saw him on the racing, so I was like, well, I know they're good. I know they're good kits for racing. I just didn't know how well they would do, in the back country, which is where most people are riding. So, got to meet JP. We got one of his kits last year, put it on the 300, and then got JP. And was it your brother-in-law who came? Yeah, your brother-in-law came up here to Kalispell to come ride with me. And so he took him out and we got to ride, all the different kits and bikes. And so that was really kind of I think for JP, we'll get into that, but that kind of like opened his mind a little bit to see some of the other things. Cause up to that point, you hadn't really ridden the other kit. So that was something that we talked about, which I was like, dude, you bought a Snowbike company. Like that's freaking ballsy. That is freaking awesome. So, but yeah, so that's how I met JP. We've been in touch since last year. And I think JP, you're 41 as well, right?
Yeah. We're the same age, born in 1982.
That's right, dude. Freaking 80s, dude. So I remember, so we're the same age and obviously grew up, same generation, same kind of stuff. And I could just really appreciate where JP was coming from, starting my own business company And the fact that he, I mean, really took this like leap of faith to buy MotoTrax. And so anyhow, I don't want to give your story up here, JP. I want you to tell it because it's a freaking cool story. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those stories that when I heard it, I was just like, yep, I could see myself doing that kind of shit, dude. Like that's freaking awesome, because like at the core, like you love snow biking. And I mean, everybody watching this to some degree is probably in that same boat. Like we all love snow biking. So I think that's where, when I met you and talking to you, I really saw that like passion of snow biking come through. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, dude, that's what's going to push this sport forward is the passion. So JP, tell us where you grew up, where you're from, and yeah, kind of your childhood and background, man.
Yeah. So thanks, Kyle. So I grew up in Billings, Montana, on the the east side of the state. Spent my youth, camping, hunting, and all that kind of stuff. Raced motorcycles for most of my childhood. Traveled around Montana and Wyoming. Got
Now,
down to
and you're
California.
talking about motocross.
Motocross, yeah, motocross,
Right.
arena cross.
So
So I've
when
been.
did you get into that? Like, how old were you?
So I got my first dirt bike when I was in third grade, and like it was, I was hooked. Like that's all I wanted to do. Just trail road in the mountains and stuff. We went camping all the time, and by the time I was in sixth grade, I was like, I have to race. My parents, my dad was never really a motorcycle guy. My mom came from a family where her older brother raced motorcycles, back in the day in the 70s when it was all getting kicked off. And so starting in seventh grade, I got into racing motocross, and that was like, it pretty much took over my family. We started going camping less, and we started going to races on the weekends.
Well, like
And
your parents were on board with supporting you racing and everything.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
My dad, for not having any motorcycle background, he never really rode. He was a huge supporter. Took me to all the races, and I wasn't going pro or anything. We did it as a fun recreational sport. I rode, the intermediate class. I was, doing my thing, having a great time, loving the motorcycle thing, and did that through my youth. Got out of high school. I went to college in Missoula, and kind of got away from.
So real quick, just, and I know it's easy to skip ahead, but walk us through a little bit of the background of riding moto. So you were racing, doing trail riding too, or mainly just motocross focused?
But still trail riding, but mostly moto. And then we would snowmobile. One of my aunt and uncles were a big snowmobile family, so I would go out, on the sleds, snowmobiling in the wintertime, not as like a primary activity for my family. We never owned snowmobiles, but I would get out a couple times a winter on the snowmobiles and ride. And then do
just trail. I mean, these are older sleds, trail riding, like as
this
much
is like
backcountry as you
a
could.
Polaris 8540, like no travel in the back. I don't even know how long the tracks were. Like probably like 120s back then, no suspension, just trail riding, getting stuck in the POW. I was, just this scrawny little kid, and just having fun, in the snow and the little.
Did you snowboard too growing up?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah. I started snowboarding, I started snow skiing at a young age. My aunt and uncle owned a ski area in Montana, and so at 6 years old. What's that?
What's the ski area called? Where is it at?
Great Divide ski area. It's in outside of Helena, Montana.
Nice. So you started skiing at 6?
Yeah, so I started skiing at 6. Started snowboarding. By the time I was probably 10 by the time I started snowboarding. So
by the way, that was like early days of snowboarding, dude. Because I went on my first ride when I was it was for my freshman year, my birthday. I think I was 14. And I mean, my first snowboarding ride was with just freaking regular boots. Like, there wasn't even snowboard boots. Like,
oh yeah, Sorels, man, rocking the
yeah,
Burton,
dude, that's what I had.
the Burton board, single tip with Sorel boots on, and like just loving it. I have so many great, the first couple of years of snowboarding with, just like garbage equipment, but it was a blast. It was something, you were the only person on the mountain, no matter where you went snowboarding at that point, like, dude, I think it was 80 the first winter I was snowboarding. So,
oh wow. So yeah, you started really early. Like that's like super early, dude.
I was 8 or 9, I guess, at that point when I started snowboarding. So yeah, like that was at the infancy of snowboarding. Everybody was punks, only snowboarders, the little terrain park they had.
If you were an early snowboarder, guys, whoever's watching this, whenever you're watching this, like, I don't care if this is 2 years from now, if you were one of those 80s and 90s snowboarders, dude, leave a comment. Cause like the new shit, it's crazy now, dude. I'm just like, this is wild, dude. So much better stuff now. Hell yeah. Well, that's cool. So you were snowboarding, you were riding dirt bikes, riding motocross, you were racing. You're growing up, you had access to your own ski hill. That's pretty badass. So yeah. So walk us through then, I guess, like high school.
So, so high school was, I played football going through high school, raced motocross in the summer, played football during the season, was on the swim team in high school, just a kid playing sports, active all the time.
Yeah. And you're a pretty tall dude.
Yeah. 6'4".
Yeah.
Little
tall guy,
like 170 pounds. So I'm a pretty skinny dude. And I was 6'4" in 7th grade. I weighed like 125 pounds. I was 6'4". People tell me now, yeah, they're like, man, you're so skinny. I'm like, dude, imagine me with like 65 pounds less than I weigh right now,
Yeah, that's wild.
But,
you were an early bloomer, man. You freaking like grew fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It grew fast. It took a long time to fill out though. I'm still working on that.
Well, it's not all it's cracked up to be, man. I gotta do everything in my power not to get fat, dude.
Yeah. I'm like the opposite. I can't eat enough food.
I got I'm like there's like endomorphs. Oh, I'm the middle guy. I'm the endomorph. I got buddies like you that are ectomorphs and they're like trying to gain weight. And I see them, they're like 7,000 calories just shoving their face. I'm like, bro, I'd be freaking 400 pounds if I ate like that. Yeah. That's tough, dude. So then, so high school, so you're racing. And then, I mean, what was it to you that drew you into racing motocross and doing that growing up?
Gosh, I don't even know. Some of it had been hearing stories, as a kid of my uncle racing back in the good old days of motocross, and then just the competitiveness, the speed, the jumping, just everything was, moto was my life. I was that, kid had Dirt Rider, Dirt Bike magazine picture, posters and pages like tacked up all over my room and,
hell yeah.
And yeah, so moto that was like everything for me. And I still played football, but you wanted to ride
dirt bikes.
I wanted to be riding dirt bikes. Yeah. It was just like the season was over. So I had to do something. So I played football, And that's what all, most of my friends were football players and stuff. And then I had another group of people that were my moto buddies, but
yeah. And didn't you ride mountain bikes too?
Yeah. So I rode bikes and I didn't really get big into like mountain biking and riding BMX until I went to college. Didn't have,
BMX.
I moved to,
like BMX racing.
BMX. Yeah. BMX, no racing, just like free riding, skate parks and stuff like that. When I got after high school, moved to Missoula, went to college in Missoula, and I sold my motorcycle, bought a downhill mountain bike, which, in 2001 was kind of the the infancy of downhill mountain biking too, you know?
Yeah, bro.
Uh,
I got
so I
into
sold,
it. I got into mountain biking. Yeah, my freshman year as well. Like I remember I had a Barracuda A2 RS with grip shifts, and like it was like $900, dude. It was a badass freaking cross country bike.
oh yeah. So I sold my Moto, or, you know, my I had an '01 KX 125, sold that, bought a Rocky Mountain RM9, which was like their top of the line $5,000 downhill bike.
So why
And
did you migrate? Why did you shift from moto to mountain bikes?
well, there's not a lot of moto riding in Missoula. At that time, they didn't have a track there. And moto's expensive, man. I mean, you've got a ton of bikes. You know what it costs to keep bikes running.
I've got a few.
Yeah. You know, and so I just, you know, I'm just a poor dirtbag college kid, and I don't have the time. I worked 30 hours a week all through college and went to school full time. So I didn't have the time, didn't have the money to be riding or racing anymore. So after my freshman year, I still had my bike. I raced a little bit the summer after my freshman year in college. And then the end of the summer, sold my bike, or, you know, sold the motorcycle, bought the downhill bike, and went back to Missoula. And I bought the downhill bike, and I bought a BMX bike. And
so were you doing a lot of just downhill, like just for fun, downhill mountain biking?
Yeah. I've never done any downhill racing, but just, you know, I'd go to Big Sky or wherever in the summertime and ride, you know, do lift served mountain biking in the summertime. And then there's tons of bike riding in Missoula.
Yeah, there's a lot. So that was your college days. So then when so now walk us through college. So what did you go to school for, and then what was after?
So I went to school for recreation management. So I was in the forestry school. You know, I you know, it's like a lot of people, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, but I liked being in college. I liked learning, like the scene of doing that. And so yeah, I did the rec management thing. Most people go into work, you know, for the forestry or the park service, something like that after that. And after learning all about the working for the government, because that's, you know, a lot of the people that we interacted with were government agencies. And by the time I got done with school, I'm like, man, the last thing I want to do is work for the government. It just, you know, wasn't my scene really. But
everything moves very slow with the government.
Moves very slow, and it's rigid, and just didn't really interest me. But, you know, through school and stuff, I had looked at the ski industry a lot, which had really been a part of my life since I was a little kid, you know, with my family owning, or not my family, but my aunt and uncle owned the ski area. So I was always had a connection to the ski industry. So as I got further along in college, I was like, you know, instead of working for the Forest Service, I want to take this knowledge that I have about the forest and business and go into the ski industry. So as when I got out of college, I instead of going to work for the government, I got in the ski biz.
Were this was your aunt and uncle, were they like, hey, JP, we can use you, you know, come over here? Or did you approach them and say, hey, I'd really love to get into this?
So at that time, they were looking at building a new ski area in Missoula on Lolo Peak called the Bitterroot Resort. And so after my senior year, I applied for a job at the Bitterroot Resort. They were building downhill mountain bike trails and doing trail clearing that summer.
Okay.
And so applied, got a job at Bitterroot Resort. In its infancy, it seems like that's kind of a theme for me, getting on things when they're just getting started.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Get in on the ground floor, you know. So I went to work for Bitterroot, you know, build downhill, downhill mountain bike trails, did a bunch of trail clearing that summer. Really liked the work, but I could see just by the management and where things were going that just wasn't, you know, that wasn't going anywhere from what I could see, which ended up being the case, that they ended up scrapping the plan for that. But so that winter we were waiting for snow at Bitterroot. to do. They were doing
That ski hill
yeah.
there still?
You can still see where the trails are cut if you look.
Dude, that's right. I've seen it because I was like, I didn't know there was a ski hill there. So that just never, that didn't take off, huh?
That just never, yeah, they never took off. They made the Forest Service so mad that they never ended up getting the permits to make it happen.
Oh, geez, dude.
It had a bunch of private property, and the private property just wasn't enough to make the ski area viable.
Okay, got it. So that winter you're waiting, and then so then what happened?
We went up to Great Divide that winter for to go skiing after Christmas, and my uncle approached me and said, "Hey, what do you think about the ski industry?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like the work. Being on the hill in the summer was awesome." And I said, "This place really isn't going anywhere." He's like, "Yeah, it's a joke." He knew, he had the inside track on everything, and he's like, "Well, why don't you come up here? We're looking for, we need a new mountain manager. You come up here, and 2 years from now, you can be running half of this mountain if you can make it happen." And went home, said, "Yeah, this is what I'm going to do." Packed up my bags, and like 5 days later, I was at Great Divide,
dude,
sharing a little tiny A-frame house with another guy on the crew that I'd never met. Just
that's wild.
Felt like that was the ski bum life back then, I guess.
The ski bum life, dude. So what year was that?
That must have been 2006. I started in January of 2007.
Dang, dude. So 2007 is when you started at the ski resort.
Yeah.
Okay, so 15-ish years ago. By the way, everybody jumping on. I see a lot more people jumping on now. And I'll mention this a couple times throughout the video, but guys, if you go to my website, snowbiknation.com, plug, if you haven't done this already, plug your name, phone number, email in on there. And then we're going to be doing a giveaway. We're doing the ride up in December up in British Columbia. So that's going to be fun. We're going to be taking all the new kits, bunch of bikes. So I think, JP will be there as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. So go enter your info. You'll get in for the drawing. And all you got to do is just get to me in Montana, or if you're in Canada, you can just meet us there. But either way. So, all right. So JP, so you start with your uncle and aunts as what did you say? A mountain manager?
Well, so I started just as a nighttime snowmaker when I got into the ski industry. I was working, I'd work from 8 in the evening to 6 in the morning, and out making snow. I was.
So you guys have to make snow out there.
Oh yeah, Great Divide averages like 160, 170 inches of snow a year. They're on the east side of the Rockies. So yeah, there's a big snowmaking operation at a smaller ski area.
Because it's cold enough, they just don't get the amount.
Yeah, yep, plenty cold, just not the quantity. The base area they make snow on the the lower half of the mountain, which has the most traffic, and just not enough to be reliable without making snow.
So you're the snowmaking dude, you said, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. basically just grinding and hustling. So how long did you do that for?
8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Oh, okay. Oh, at night. Duh. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so I started the night guy. So I did that, finished the season off, like 2 months of making snow, and working on, just have been a mechanic by trade since I was a little kid.
This guy, Great Divide, best job ever. Andrew.
Oh yeah, what up, Andrew? Yeah, Andrew worked for me for a season.
That's awesome. Is Andrew a ripper now too? Is he a snowbiker?
Oh yeah, but I'm trying to get him on a MotoTrax kit. He's got an old Timber Sled 137 mountain horse. I'm trying to get him on a MotoTrax kit, man.
Oh, nice. This is the year, Andrew. Come on. This is the time. That's awesome. So Andrew used to work with you. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay, so you're making snow at nighttime, and then how long did you do that before you kind of started? Because I know where you ended up at there. So walk us through that
Yeah,
progression.
so finished that season, a couple months more making snow. I was like halfway through the season. Got into driving, operating snowcats. Get
Just
into
so people
summertime.
understand, you're not talking snowmobiles. You're talking big snowcats, right?
I'm
Like these
talking,
are
I'm talking like bombardier, piston bully, snowcats, like the big units, steel tracks,
groomers, right? These are for
groomers,
grooming. Yeah,
groomers. Yeah. Yeah.
got it.
For all the 'cause it's funny to me, people call them snowcats, snowmobiles. Uh,
My grandpa would always say that, and he's from Columbia Falls, and he'd be like, "We're gonna go snowcatting." I was like,
yeah,
oh, that's all I ever knew. So, and that's what I called it at first. And they're like, "Snowcats? What are you talking about?" Like, now it's sleds, right? They're sleds. So anyway,
sleds.
so
Yeah.
you're driving those things, grooming, and what else are you
Grooming.
guys doing on those?
Building terrain parks. Great Divide has a huge terrain park program, like 6 terrain parks.
That's
So I
cool.
got right from the beginning with my, my moto background and bike, bike riding and jumping and stuff. Got into the terrain park building game. So I spent a lot of time, pushing snow, building jumps and jibs and all that cool stuff.
That's
Um,
cool.
so yeah, get through the winter, went to, there's a program at Timberline, that they do a big building conference every year. Went to
What's
school for
Timberline?
building. Well, Timberline Lodge is, at, oh gosh, what's the name of the resort? Mount Hood.
Oh, Mount Hood. Got it.
Yeah, Timberline's the name of the lodge there. So Mount Hood does a big, like a nationwide. Really, it's a worldwide. It snowcat operators from around the world come and spend a week there building terrain parks and stuff every year. So I did that. My first year at Great Divide, I got to go there and see what there's like the people that are building X Games terrain parks are going there and teaching courses and stuff. So I got pretty big into building terrain parks and maintenance. Doing Great Divide's a small ski area, so doing chairlift maintenance, slope maintenance, chainsaw work, just everything that you can imagine
Yeah.
doing on a ski boat. There's
Did you like
I
that a lot more just because I mean, working with mechanical stuff and getting to do a lot more stuff?
Yeah, and it's that's the ski industry is awesome because you if we used to always say if you don't like what you're doing, just wait a couple weeks or wait a month and something else will come up. It's like the weather in Montana. If you don't like it, just wait, it'll change. And that's how the ski industry is if you got 4 seasons and you have different activities that go on year round. So you're making snow in the fall and the early winter and then you're grooming and building parks, throughout the season, working on vehicles, working on sleds, ski patrol. I've been a ski
Yeah.
patroller for 15 years now.
Oh, damn.
Um,
You
so
did
just,
that as part of what you're doing, like, later on?
yeah. As at the mountain, just, it's most of the full-time people were pro patrollers. So if, anytime there's an accident, you respond, if you're close or if they need help, you have the knowledge and we're there to help people. So
you're doing that. I mean, you're basically helping run this whole operation, you're like jack of all trades guy out there, right?
yeah. Yeah. So the first 2 years there, just learning, doing everything I can, we work 410s in the summertime and, some people have a hard time believing it, but I mean, from the first weekend in November to, the middle of March, I was working, 80 hours a week all winter
Damn.
long, 7 days a week through snowmaking and just grinding, and I loved
Yeah.
it. It was great. 2
So
years of that.
in that timeline, then when did you get married? Because that obviously can be a lot more challenging too when now you've got the family in the mix.
Oh yeah. So what I had been at Great Divide 5 years, I think, maybe 5.5 years. We got married in May of 2014. So more like 7 years, I guess, after I'd been there. So I'd worked there for a while. My wife and I dated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is she from here, like from Montana?
Courtney's actually from Spokane, which is where we're located at now. So that was part of moving over here, was like coming home for her, you know. But
That's
she was going to Carroll College, which is the you know, the main college in Helena, and she was a ski patroller, or joined the ski patrol at Great Divide, and that's how we got together.
So you met her. She was a ski patroller, and she caught your eye. You're like, hey, what's up, Courtney?
Oh yeah.
I run this operation. Like, anything you want to know, take a ride in my Snowcat.
Yep, exactly, man.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
We come up here after down. We got this place all to ourselves.
That's right, dude. Hell yeah, that's awesome, dude. So you guys dated, and then when did you guys get married? You said 2014.
2014, yeah.
And at that point, you'd been working. You said 7-8 years.
Yep. Yeah. So I started in I can't remember now if it was 06 or 07, in January 06 or 07 when I started. So I was, about 7 years in when we got married.
So 2014. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, we had lived together. So before we got married, Courtney knew the game, knew what I did, you know.
Yeah.
The long hours and you know, all that stuff. But it's, you know, you work a lot, but you get to play, and it's fun.
Yeah. So this whole time while you're doing this, are you like, okay, I want to do this forever, or I want to like take over this thing someday? Like, where was your head at with what you were doing and kind of like the future?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, my goal was to buy Great Divide and own it, live there for the rest of my life. You know, when that was something that me and Kevin, who had owned it, talked about from the very beginning. Like, come in here, start at the bottom, work your way up to the top. And you know, he was, I don't even know, Kevin must have been late 50s, mid 50s at that point. And he's like, I could retire today if I had the right person to take over, you know? Yeah. And so right from the beginning, I said, you know, I want a house. I want a house here on the ski area. And I started working all that overtime that I was working for was going towards, you know, buying land to build a house up there. So, you know, I put in the first 7 years there. Me and Courtney got married in May of 14, and instead of going on a honeymoon, we came back to Great Divide and broke ground on building our dream house at the ski area.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, which was a whole nother.
You bought property on the ski resort.
Yeah, bought land. That was Kevin started. You know, as we started getting closer to this, you know, this deal that we had. He owned a bunch of the private property in the base area, got it approved for a subdivision to put a small, like, 5-house subdivision right on the ski area, you know? Yeah. And so we got married, broke ground on that. So I'm, you know, working 10-hour days at the ski area, coming home, we put in the whole septic system, you know, at night and on the weekends.
Dude. You're just grinding, bro. So
doing it.
All right. So this is like 2015, 2016. So, I mean, I'm just thinking back to, I'm trying to like pull in here the Snowbike stuff of where, you know, when snowbiking kind of came around. So like, when was the first time you saw then a snowbike?
So it was right in there, like 2015, 2016. Okay. You know, the first
was starting to get bigger then, like, you know, people were starting to realize who they were, especially in the Northwest. Yeah.
And I hadn't actually seen one in person, but I saw them online, started watching them. A person that one of my dad's friends had an early mountain horse, you know, and he was stoked on it at that point. He was a hardcore sledder and he was digging the snowbike thing, you know, and
were you riding motorcycles really at that point much?
I was riding. I had an 02 KX 250 that I was riding as a trail bike. I wasn't doing any moto stuff, just riding at the ski area and, you know, in the mountains around there.
Got it.
But
Got it. So you
yeah, and so
you weren't heavy into the moto scene at that point. I mean, you're
wasn't
married.
heavy in riding a lot of pedal bikes at that time still.
Right.
But once we started building our house, it was like we were all in. We built the like the entire thing ourselves. We had dug the hole. We had to use explosives to blast the foundation out. Like we poured the foundation ourselves. Just we built it with help from Courtney's family and my family. Courtney's parents spent a lot of time coming over from Spokane, helping us build this sweet house that we were going to live in forever.
So all right, so then you start seeing these snow bikes come around 2015, 2016.
Yeah, and I'm like jonesing for a snow bike. I love moto. I still, I watch Supercross and motocross. I ride my dirt whenever I can, I'm riding every day. I have a little KLX 125 that I ride. I put probably seriously thousands of hours on that thing riding at the ski area, like cruising around, doing my work, And so we're in the middle of building this sweet house, and we're all in. We didn't take a loan out. We built it as we went. Wow. And so yeah, money's tight, and I'm just like drooling every winter about getting on a snow bike, and I just can't. It's just not practical.
I'm surprised you were like, I need this for the business. So this is going to be a business write-off. And this is so I can get around more effectively and faster. Like that's what my brain would have been doing.
I tried to sell it. I tried to sell it to Kevin, and he was not having it at all.
He's looking at it like, this is not a very like utility vehicle, JP.
No, he's like, and at that point, nobody had any idea what they would do,
Yeah.
And what the practicality of it would be. Yeah. And yeah. So in 2017, Courtney's my wife, Courtney's dad buys 2 MotoTrax kits, and they're over here. They're in Washington.
MotoTrax at that point, when did they have their first kit? Was it 2016 or 2017?
So 2015, the 2015-2016 winter was the first winter that MotoTrax released a product. It's called the Scout XC.
Okay. See if I can.
They made and sold 100 units that first winter, and
talk through. So MotoTrax, the guy who started it, he's from isn't he from Idaho? Like, wasn't it a project in college or something like that?
Yep. He went to went to the University of Idaho, and he won. They have like a young inventors or a young inventors prize that they do. So you submit plans for some new innovative design that you want, that you're creating. And he won the contest, won $100,000 to design this snow bike kit that he had come up with. And that's that turned into the
this is the Scout right here.
No, that's actually not a Scout.
Oh,
that's
what is this is 20. I thought it said 2016, the Scout XC.
It doesn't look like a Scout to me.
Well, and maybe that one's not. Maybe they're just saying that's when they first came out with one.
Yeah, I think that looks like a 2017 model.
Oh, it is. You're right. It says 2017 Trax Enduro, Trax Mountain, and then Trax Motocross. Got it. I was trying to find one. I'll see if I can find it. So the Scout comes out. So this dude, he starts it in college. I remember when they were like, I had met some of the guys when it was like 1 or 2 years in, and it was still just kind of getting off the floor. So your father-in-law buys was it the Scout?
Nope, he bought the next year. So he bought a 17, a 16, 17.
Oh, here it is. Does that look better?
There you go. There's the Scout right there.
There he is. Look at this thing, dude. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's pretty, honestly, it's fairly similar to the to our current kits, the design and a lot of the geometry and stuff are still the same as a lot of the stuff we're using today. At that point when the Scout came out in 15, nobody had any idea, I don't think, what you're going to be able to do on these things, and it was underbuilt for how hard you ended up being able to ride a snow bike.
Well, and and up to that point, I remember this, it was revolutionary. Like no one had anything like that, this design, which still it's very unique, did not exist with this giant, linkage here. So walk through kind of the design of the MotoTrax, because it is so very different before we kind of get into the next piece. So what was their big deal when they came out? Like what was their kind of selling point?
I mean, their selling point was the raising rate suspension design, which really mimics in a lot of ways what the linkage system on a normal, a modern dirt bike does, where as the suspension goes through its travel, due to the linkage, the shock gets stiffer and stiffer the further it goes into its travel.
Which is I remember Alan talking about that on one of the interviews we did, and that's really the moto world. That's the motorcycle world, because it's different in the snowmobile world, right? Like the suspension.
Yeah, totally different than the snow world. I think where they call it they call it falling rate suspension, or it works the opposite.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they call it, but it kind of works the opposite way, as the skid all goes backwards away from the shock, and it's a straight rate where, and just shock technology has come a long way, where now even 7 years ago, a progressive rate shock was kind of unheard of a little bit, where now it wasn't unheard. I mean, it wasn't unheard of. KTM was doing that with their the PDS systems on their dirt bikes with no linkage. But now now snow bikes and snowmobiles are using
well, this article right here in snowmobile.com, this is in 2011, and saying that the latest fad in the snowmobile industry is the rising rate suspension. So it was like starting to kind of come around, but it wasn't implemented.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that was one of the unique things then about the MotoTrax kit, right? Is it really kind of mimicked more of the moto feel, which is why it became this real, I think in the race scene especially, it like became really popular.
Yeah, it took off in the race scene, and that's what they were pushing it originally. They were pushing it towards racing, originally, and doing some of the design work and stuff was, they were gravitating it towards the racing scene, which was nobody. I think at that point nobody really knew which way the sport was going to go, if racing was going to take off or mountain riding. And I think we've all seen the mountain scene has definitely surpassed the racing scene as far as snow bikes go, 100-fold probably.
And that's even the case in snowmobiles. I mean, the mountain riding scene is the biggest out of every segment of the snowmobile industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but snowmobile trail riding is a huge segment of the snowmobile industry too.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to have these sweet mountains over here and all this deep pow, where
all those East Coasters and those Flatlanders that got to ride, trails for 200 miles,
Yeah. Get some little hills to go.
I love taking those guys snowbiking, dude. They come out here and they just freaking lose their minds. They're just like, this is incredible, dude. Like, I don't want to go back home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's so that awesome. That was the thing is, and the suspension with the raising rate suspension, you get a really soft, supple feel at the beginning of the travel. So it absorbs bumps, it absorbs chatter. And then as you get deeper into the suspension,
I'm just going to go on the record and say this, guys, because last year when I rode, I mean, I hate riding the trail as most snow bikers do. Like for me, it's just like, I don't really care what it feels like. Just get me back there. I'll just grin and bear it. And dude, I gotta say for the trail, like I was blown away at how the MotoTrax felt. It literally feels like you're just riding this dirt bike on the trail. And it was so smooth, and the articulation, I can't even remember, but how it leans, like it just felt so good on the trail. And like I remember thinking my first time riding, I was like, I'm not really like in riding trails, but if I was, I'm like, this freaking kit is awesome because it just feels so good on the trail compared to at that point every kit that I had ridden. And like I said, I think for a lot of us that are mountain riders, it's like, we don't really care. But there is something to be said about, some guys, especially even I've talked to guys even in Idaho, they're like, dude, we got to ride trail for 15 miles, like here I'm like, we got to ride trail for 3 or 4 miles. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And that's, that's a lot with the raising rate suspension. And then you kind of alluded a little bit to the lateral articulation that our kit has, where
you want to show that real quick, just while we're talking about it? I think that'd be cool if you could show that on your phone, and then that way guys can see what we're talking about.
Let's see if we can get in here. So right there that is that's called our pivot link. So that connects the main swing arm to the track rails. So it allows the track rails to articulate 15 degrees to either side. And that really gives you I think the word people use is the edgy feel that you get when you have the tracks are mounted, or the rails are mounted, firmly. You get that edgy feel where you lean the bike over, the kit over a little bit, and you're balancing on the outside edge of the track, and it always wants to sit flat, wants to go back to being straight up and down, where the MotoTrax kit with that articulation has more of a carving kind of feel. If you're riding on a road and there's ruts or a side hill or something, the track rails will roll, will articulate.
Here I got a picture from your site too, so that guys can kind of see that like really, really clear. You can see on the website how that looks there.
Yeah.
And what is that called again?
We call that, well, it's called lateral articulation. We call that piece, it's called a rad dampener. And that, so, and then you can see the bushings in there. We've got 3 different durometers of rubber in there, so you can fine tune how much flex you want it to have. You put, like an 80 durometer polyurethane bushing in there, and it gets really stiff. I mean, almost to the point where it doesn't move unless you're pushing on it really hard riding down the trails.
Do you find that like for mountain riding, guys like that better?
Yeah. For mountain riding, it seems like most people like the stiffer bushing. It keeps the rails planted a little bit more. It allows the track to bite in a little bit more when you're side hilling without deflecting. And then completely the opposite spectrum. If you're racing, it's really nice to, we've got 80, we've got 60, and we've got 50 durometer. So if you're racing, you put the 50 durometer in there. This thing just carves turns like crazy. You can take inside lines, where on other kits you can hardly balance because you got it so up on the edge there. So it's
for like trail ride, for trail riding and racing, like that might be a good option where you can swap it.
Yeah, and then you get in the middle, the 60. The 60 is a good balance. It's compliant. It articulates on the hard surfaces when you're riding, but then it's still firm enough that the track doesn't deflect so bad that it's causing you issues. When you're in deep snow or you're side hilling.
Got it. So walk through also the suspension in there. I mean, that's a freaking big old shock. Like that's a Moto shock, right?
Yep. So you've got a full size Moto shock in here, and the front. Struggling to see the front link. you've got it. You've got a suspension link just like that hangs down under your motocross bike. That that as the suspension goes through its travel, the linkage gets firmer and firmer, and makes the suspension get stiffer and stiffer as you go through. So it really resists bottoming while still being really plush at the top end of the stroke.
So someone David, so he said, what's the wheel for on the outside of the rail? So those are called idler wheels, and those are so that you don't you don't get your track punched through your end of your rails there.
Yep. And the idler wheels also, how they're set up on the MotoTrax kit, lifts the track up off the rails just like a 1/16 of an inch.
That's right.
So when you're in spring conditions and there's not you're riding on the icy roads getting in or whatever, it really helps preserve your high fax, so you're not smoking high faxes, which it works really good. We have very, very few high fax issues on.
Yeah, I didn't go through
partly
any,
due
I
to
didn't
that
go
wheel.
through any of them. Yeah, I didn't go through.
Yeah,
any
and you guys put. And we, people, not saying people don't burn them out. I mean, if you're riding in the springtime, if you're putting on 10 miles in and out, you're going to be wearing high faxes, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're
when
you're like that on the hard surfaces, you're going to do it. If you run a scratcher on your ski or something, that helps a lot in the hard snow and ice in the later season.
So then walk through the next piece there, which is your like the dampening system and that whole setup.
In the rear?
Yeah, the rear there. What is it called? Like the intelligent dampening system or something like that?
Yep. Yeah, so our rear link on here is, we got, this is our alpha kit. So the rear's got an Öhlins TTX air shock in the back, and this controls how much rail movement you get. So you've got 3 settings on it. You've got a locked out setting, medium, and then soft mode. The locked out setting keeps the rail tips up. And really allows this thing to helps it get on top of the snow and stay up there. You free up that rear arm, and then it's way more compliant, makes the front end feel really light when you're riding down the road, and helps trail performance, and gives it a little lighter feel if you're trying to get the ski off the ground.
Yeah, kind of get a little bit more wheelie action. So what's unique about this thing too? Because I mean, this is totally different too than any other. I've never seen another Snowbike kit with this arm like this. So what is it exactly is the whole purpose of it?
So the whole purpose, the rear arm in the back, the way that the track rails articulate, this rear arm also has to articulate. So the pivot right here allows the skid to articulate from side to side. As you go, and then that is your travel, your shock travel. You got 2¼ inches of travel for the rail. So if you're going down through a washout or whatever, that helps keep the rails planted on the ground. Got
it. Yeah, and I really liked the super slick and easy way to lock out the shock. That was nice. I would use that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we've got. Go ahead.
Something we've never run before, and we started playing around with it last year, and found out that we really liked having the ability to shorten the front of the, to suck the rails up in the front when you get into really deep snow. So we've started this year. The alpha kits will come with limiter straps that you can put on the front. Which help in the deep snow to reduce the likelihood of trenching when you're in that bottomless pow early in the season, or those killer days mid-season.
Are you going to notice? Are you going to notice a lot of difference if you? I mean, like, when would we want to take those off? Is it really more like once it's spring, hard, firm conditions?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Once you have a solid base built up where the track's not trying to find dirt under there, you can take them off. It by sucking the front of the track down, you're putting more pressure on the front ski, so it steers a little heavier when you have the limiter straps on there. But it does better on those those bottomless days when you're digging through the snow. In the springtime when the snow's firmer, it's nice to take them off, let the suspension use all of its travel, and you're not worried about punching through the snow.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And I mean, we saw, Alan doing putting that on for that very reason as well. So limiter straps have been around for a long time in the snowmobile industry. There's a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, go and look at almost any snowmobile, whether it's a trail sled or it's one of these sweet mountain sleds that's out there. They've all got limiter straps on them, and people, they've been using them since I was a kid riding those. The Indy 540s back in the day, those things were running limiter straps. It just there's so much variability in the terrain that you're riding that you just got to have some way to control what the rails are doing for different conditions.
So I want to back it up just a little bit because we jumped ahead when we were talking about the kit itself. So walk us through. So your father-in-law buys a MotoTrax Snowbike kit. This is what year? 2017.
2017, yeah. He buys two MotoTrax kits because you got to have he didn't know anybody, he didn't have any friends that rode Snowbike, so he bought two MotoTrax kits because he's got two sons, and they're over here in Washington. I'm in Montana, and like once Halloween goes, we're like full on at the ski area. So they've got these snow bikes. So they're riding them every chance they can get that first winter. And I can't come over there. Every time I talk to Courtney, talks to him on the phone, or I talk to him on the phone, that's all, Jeff and Jason and JT are just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Like, we feel bad even talking to you about it because you're going to love it so much. And I'm just dying, You're
like, I don't want to hear it. Well, so were you seeing snow bikes over where you were at, like in Great Divide area?
I still hadn't seen one in person.
Really?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
no.
wild.
And there's a snowmobile parking lot right down from the ski area, and there's sledders all over the place, but still I had not seen a snow bike actually in person at that point.
You're just jonesing at this point. You're like, dude, I want to ride a snow bike.
I'm dying for it. And by that time I've got a KX 250F. And so that go through that winter, those guys are just killing me about how much fun they're having on their snow bikes. And so that summer I told Courtney, I was like, whatever we have to do, like, I just have to have a snow bike. And she knew it too. It was just, it had to happen.
I'm gonna go donate an organ so I can get one of these, honey.
Yeah. I don't care what it is. I'll sell my car and walk everywhere. And so midsummer is like the second week in July or something. What was it? It was a 06 CRF 450 with a big bore kit, and it had a 17 MotoTrax kit on it. Comes up for sale in Missoula, and I'm like, came up in the morning. Courtney actually showed it to me. She saw it. She's like, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, you probably shouldn't have shown me that, huh? And she's like, "When are you going to get it?" That day,
that's a great wife right there, man. She knows that you need it.
Oh, she knew that I needed it. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this was happening. And that's so, that night I get off work, jump in the truck and drive over to Missoula and bought my first snow bike. And I was like, it's July and all I want to do is go snow biking.
Yeah. You're just like staring at it. Yeah. Waiting. So that's an 06. What was it? 06
CRF 450.
Oh, CRF 450. So kickstart.
And it had a big bore kit. So it was like a real, you had to jump on that thing to get it to start, And it started good when it was cold. And then when it was hot, it hated to start.
Yeah.
Which was not ideal for snow biking.
No. That's not fun.
Yeah, so I'm just jonesing all summer and all fall, and like we get this huge dump in like the first week in October that year. We get like 3 feet of snow, just in some random storm.
Oh yeah, that's how it goes here, dude.
Yeah, and I had taken the kit off to ride the bike. I didn't, I knew I wanted to test it out and see if it was going to be reliable enough to take out in the woods and stuff. So it like starts snowing in the afternoon. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get this thing mounted up. So I stay up till like 4 o'clock in the morning, mounting up this snow bike kit.
Done that many times. I pulled all-nighters putting kits together and shit.
Get up first thing the next morning, and my wife's got pictures. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm rolling out to go to work on my snow bike. And like Courtney's taking, we got this sweet sunrise with me on my first snow bike ride, and
that's awesome.
It was
everything tell us, was it just like everything you hoped for?
It was, and it gave me an insight into MotoTrax too, because it was amazing. It was, I was riding up, crazy stuff that at that point, with the conditions, you couldn't get a snowmobile to go anywhere. And I'm, switchbacking and climbing up to the top of the ski hill. And first time out, the track comes off my new snow bike kit. And I didn't know, I hadn't, like I knew about MotoTrax, but I hadn't really heard anything about it, any of the problems, I guess. And so my first day, track comes off, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This is, this is kind of ridiculous. We get it back on, and I'm ripping, comes off again.
Were you able to determine what it was, or were you just like, put the track on, I want to go ride?
I just put it back on and wanted to go ride. I'm thinking, it's like, what, there's no base at all. There's like 3 feet of blower power. So I'm hitting rocks and stumps and digging like crazy, I'm like, well, it just must not be it, it's just the conditions, I'm so crazy excited about how much fun it is. And all the guys on my crew, let all the guys ride it, and everybody was just like,
so wait, so this was 2017 or 2018?
This was 2018, like the fall of 2018.
Okay, so you're riding the 2018 2019 season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about when I started, because I started the year before that, the 2017-18 season on a mountain horse. So I'm just remembering myself like I was losing my shit, man. I was losing my mind like on that thing for the first time.
Yeah, it was everything that I wanted it to be and so much more. Like I was like the stoke on snow biking, even with like, 2 serious tractor ailments, that like it was a nightmare, but I didn't even care. I was just so excited and so pumped on snow biking. Snow, the snow melts, most of it melts that day, so much so you can't ride anymore. So we put it away and, don't get back on it for at least a month, probably a month and a half before there was enough snow to ride it again. And,
so were you thinking about anything like, oh, I want to look at this? Or were you just like, yeah, whatever. I was just railing in stuff I probably shouldn't have ridden, and I'll just wait.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it. And I had some ideas about what wasn't working, but I didn't, I was still just so fresh with it that I didn't really know what was happening,
Yeah.
If something that I did when I tightened the track, or, what happened. And get it out. A couple months later, we get it out, and the same thing happens. And I'm like, okay, well, this is ridiculous. Something's not right here. I, talked to.
It did that again.
Yeah, the next time I had it out, it comes off again. And talked to my father-in-law.
Look at Cameron's comment here. My first time riding a snow bike was on like 6 inches of crusty ice snow. I know some people that had that. Yeah.
He probably loved it too.
Yeah. What'd you think of it, Cameron? Were you hooked? Were you just like, yep, this is really not like terrible kind of, but also awesome at the same time? I think that's what a lot of people's because I took a buddy and that's what he did. His first time he rode on like ice, and he was like, "Yeah, it was sketchy, dude." And then I took him out in some POW, and he was just like, "This is freaking dumb. Like, this is so fun."
Yeah, and you know, the ice and stuff, but you're like, well, I can see the potential, but I'm just not really feeling it.
Yeah,
I was hooked instantly.
Yeah, just like us. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, all right, so it starts to snow. You get more snow. You go out and ride. The same thing happens. Track comes off.
Same thing happens. I call my father-in-law. I'm like, dude, are you guys having the same problem? And he's like, no, we haven't had any problems like that with our kits. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Get into looking at it. And he's got a 17 and an 18 kit at this point, and they're both upgraded with all the newest stuff. And the kit that I bought was a 2017 MotoTrax kit that hadn't had any updates put on it.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a it's called the EVO link, and it goes from we can look at it here.
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called the EVO, like the evolution. I don't know if you can see it.
Let me show just you here. Give me just a sec.
Some light here.
So yeah. So what is it that was causing it to
so there was nothing at the front of the rails to keep the rails in line. So you had that articulating link in the center that allows the rails to articulate side to side, but there was nothing from keeping the rails from articulating front to back. So then that was something in 17, they started having this problem right away.
Right.
And
so and what is it that was added? I'm still not seeing what you're trying to talk or show here.
Oh. The light's not very good right here.
Yeah, no worries. I might be able to pull it up. I might be able to pull it up on your website.
Yeah, just can't see it. It's hard to show the whole piece and what it's doing here.
Yeah, I was gonna try and pull it up on the website, but so what? Yeah, so what was that was happening?
So the rails
were moving side to side.
The rails at the front were moving side to side. So when you would side hill, you're on a side hill, the uphill sides to your left, the rails are falling away. The rail tips are falling away to the right, and the track would just walk itself off.
Okay.
So the EVO link goes from where the main shock mounts up to the front of the rails and keeps that in line. So now the rails can still articulate, laterally, but they can't, side to side, they can't push out in the front.
So they can't go off at that point.
So they can't go off. So I figured out that that's what I didn't have. Okay. Get old MotoTrax, buy the EVO link, which was easy to put in, and bam, now the track doesn't come off. Solved. It was like night and day from almost not being able to ride it on a side hill to now I don't have any problems at all. You know?
That's interesting that they didn't catch that in the beginning. I wonder if it's that's wild that they didn't.
So what happened? So the Scout has really the same suspension linkage as the new MotoTrax kits do, but the Scout was only offered in a 120 track link that first year.
Okay.
So they rode it and worked fine, didn't have any problems, and that was in 17 the 16, 17 kits.
It's this right here, right? You can see it actually, I think. Right there, this piece.
Oh, that doesn't have it. I don't think it's there. It shouldn't be there on that.
I was just curious. But they only offered a 120. Oh, does that one have it?
No, that's a Scout too. It's not.
Well, no worries.
Yeah, so they only offered a 120 kit, And the 120s with the shorter track length didn't have that problem. And even the 17 model year kits in the 120s, it never, other than like extreme situations, that was just never an issue. But then you get a 137 or, 129 or 137, you have the rails are a lot longer in the back. There's a lot more rails sticking out behind where the swing arm mounts. And that extra leverage would force the track, force it over and push the track off.
So you get yours fixed. And then after that, how was it?
It was amazing, dude. It was just a total game changer. You could rip, go anywhere you wanted. And
so did you experience that? And this was what I thought was interesting, because when I had talked to you and you're like, yeah, I'd never ridden another kit, so you didn't have anything to compare it to. So were you experiencing like the trenching and the stuff like that it was kind of notorious for kind of in the beginning before solving some of those issues?
It's not as much as some people. I never followed MotoTrax's recommendations about where to set the what length to set the strut at. They always recommended like a 15 or 16th inch gap between like the end of the rear fender down to the tunnel, which sets the kit up really tall, and does a lot of things that I don't really like. And I from the very first time I set it up, I wanted my seat, even in 6'4", I wanted my seat as low as I could get it. So I set the track way down low, put 10 and a half, 11 inches of a distance between my fender, and that changed a lot of the trenching issues with
the geometry.
Just setting the geometry different from what they recommended, made the trenching issue a lot less noticeable.
Interesting.
And so that, when I bought MotoTrax, that was, people were like, oh, what do I do to get this thing to stop trenching? And I didn't even really realize that I had done that I was riding my setup way different than what everybody else was doing. And just getting the word out that that if you set it up like this, it has two effects. One, it doesn't trench as bad, just the changes the attack angle into the snow, and it lightens the front end up a lot, which makes it handle a lot better while you're riding in. So we changed our setup recommendations, and it made a big difference for both characteristics, the deep snow performance and handling.
And I will say I would put a lot of the shorter people on the MotoTrax kit in particular, because of how we were able to set it up and make it a lot lower. So that was a really nice thing for newbies in particular, because they could get on it and they felt very comfortable. And the hardest thing for newbies is riding the freaking trails in. Like that is the hardest thing for a brand new rider. And so the fact that it was one of the easiest ones to ride on the trail, man, if they were short and they were new, dude, we'd throw them on the MotoTrax kit and they were good to go. They could ride in just fine. They felt comfortable on it. If you throw them on some of the other kits that are just made for, they're a little bit more aggressive and stuff, they can struggle a little bit. And so that was one of the things that I noticed right out of the gate for people. And then obviously we, out on the mountain ran into some trenching issues, and you fixed that, which was super cool. So we can talk about that. But so you then resolve that issue by doing their updates. This is 2018.
Yeah.
So now walk us through what's next, because I feel like that was kind of when MotoTrax started. Like, well, tell us what happened with freaking the owner and just the company, man.
Yeah. So at that point, MotoTrax is kind of blowing up for MotoTrax. The company, that was the 2018, 2019 season was the big winter for MotoTrax. They, had a big marketing push, had a bunch of dealerships lined up and sold, a ton of MotoTrax kits, got them out to the public, and maybe probably overstretched a little bit for what they were actually set up to do. Didn't have the support for people there. Probably at that point, still didn't have all of the little issues worked out with the kit, which, they had fixed the derailment issue, but there's a learning curve. It was a brand new product. It wasn't, essentially a snowmobile skid put on a snowbike, like a lot of the other systems are kind of, they're tailored to the snowbike application, but it's essentially snowmobile technology, So I think a lot of those lessons were learned years before snowbikes ever came around, where with our, the completely
totally new,
totally new, unique suspension system, there was a lot of little things that had to be figured out on the kit, So, anyways,
what happened? What happened with the owner? Because I don't remember when he left or what happened there.
So he was around for that 18-19 winter, Randy, and he, they had some, people were breaking some stuff. They had some warranty stuff. Some people weren't happy because, they were, just had outgrown their potential. I think at that point they'd sold more kits than they had the ability to support, really, and had more dealerships out there than they could really service and do justice to. So they kind
of jumped a little bit too fast in the beginning before solving some of the issues and working through those things. Yeah.
People were excited about MotoTrax. There's a lot of people like us that got on it for the first time and were like, oh my God, this is going to completely upend the snowmobile industry, And so a lot of people jumped on board and gave, invested a lot of money in MotoTrax, and they took a huge leap where they needed another small step, and really outgrew themselves, and in the process, made a lot of people not happy with the product, with the customer service. And I don't really think it was necessarily a full product. People weren't entirely disappointed with the product. It was that you called and you couldn't get parts, or you called and somebody would argue with you about what was wrong with your kit. And you're like, dude, this is what's happening. Like, don't tell me it's not happening,
Yeah.
I heard that from several customers. They're like getting arguments with somebody with MotoTrax on the phone. And so,
So were you experiencing issues, issues with getting parts, or like, were you having? I wasn't
having problems. Some of the problems were setup related. People were running their tracks too tight. People were running. I think a big thing, people were running their chains too tight. The setup recommended for the secondary drive chain didn't have enough slack in it. People were burning out bearings in the drive hubs and drive shafts, because they're running the super tight. And that was in the setup manual. It said to have between 1/8 and 1/4 inch of deflection in the secondary chain, and that just, it doesn't work. Didn't have enough room. It wasn't enough. It was so small of an amount that if you're 280 pounds and you got sausage fingers and you push on that chain, like, you can have that sucker really tight and still get it to deflect 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of that dirt. It's kind of almost the dirt bike like mentality of, not that you want a super loose chain, because that can cause issues, but it's better to have it a little loose than freaking too tight, because that's how you break shit.
Way better to have it loose than a little tight. So, and that was one of the things. People were, you burn a drive hub out, or, and then, I mean, it still happens. People get in the backcountry and something craters and you can't get your kit out. You're fired up, and it takes a big effort to get your setup out of the woods. So we had people that were frustrated, and they call up looking for help or something, and they're like, well, it's not our fault, you messed it up, whatever. So they you know, that's what happened.
So you're watching the snowbike scene grow at this point. I mean, this is 2019, 2020. So yeah, walk us through how you decide to, well, I'm going to buy a snowbike company. Like, here we go. Like,
well, so, you know, life evolves and changes. It took us 6 years. We finished building our house, which was, you know, a huge
by the
endeavor for
way,
6
real
years.
quick, just so everybody knows, I'm going to put you, so everybody can see you, and I have to go pee. I can still hear, but I got to freaking go pee. And if you got to take a break too, you can take a break.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going here.
Yeah, tell your story on you know, yeah, how that evolved.
Yeah, so we finally finished building this sweet house, you know, ski in, ski out on the side of a ski area, and that opportunity came up to buy the ski area. Kevin was ready to retire. The opportunity was put to us that, you know, if we wanted to, we could buy the ski area and make that our you know, our life. And after, you know, some long thoughts and deep conversations, my wife and I decided that wasn't what we wanted to do with our lives. We didn't. You know, I love the ski industry, but I didn't want to take that next step. You know, it's a huge, all-encompassing decision. So we passed on that opportunity. A year goes by, and it was kind of like after I decided we weren't going to buy the ski area, I was kind of losing my passion for being there. I was all about snowbiking at that point. I mean, I was riding, you know, every chance I could get all winter long. You know, riding to work in the morning, going for a cruise in the afternoon, making snow on my snowbike, doing just everything. I'm all about snowbiking. I'm telling my wife, like, I don't know what I want to do, but I'd like to get in the, you know,
at
the
that point,
snowbike.
you're just loving snowbiking, and like you said, kind of lost your passion. So I mean, that was going to be kind of your goal, was to take over the mountain. And what was it for you guys that was like, I don't want to do this anymore, but you didn't know what you wanted to do yet?
Didn't know what I want to do. I just, you know, to own a ski area like that is, I mean, it's everything. You live and breathe it 12 months a year. You live there. You don't ever get away from it. You know, you work every weekend. You know, your busiest days Saturday and Sunday. And at that point, we had our first kid. And I'm just starting to see, like, geez, how am I going to go watch football games, or how, you know, what, you know, just all those life things that you start thinking about, like, you know, am I going to be able to go on a ski vacation with my kids, or, you know, all those kind of things. And it just wasn't what we wanted to do, you know, which I'd been working at for, you know, almost 15 years at that point. And so when we passed on that opportunity, and somebody else bought the ski area and came in, and I was working for them, and you know, good friends of mine. I'm still really close with the people that own the ski area now. But then I felt a little lost. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I actually applied for a job. Timbersled had a job that came up, and I applied for a job at Timbersled in the,
no way.
Geez, must have been the spring of 2020, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Applied for a job at Timbersled. Basically just got a random letter that said, yeah, sorry, we're not interested. Never got it. Never got an interview.
What was it for?
Never got it.
Yeah, they're like,
what's that?
They're like, you're not a snowbike engineer. What was it for? Do you remember?
It was like a product rep. I think I would have been, you know, like go around to dealerships and you know, and check on dealerships and take feedback on products and stuff like that.
When you check the box of have you ever ridden a Timbersled? You're like, no, only MotoTrax.
That's probably when they just threw it out.
They're like, who's this guy? He's riding a MotoTrax and he wants to rep our kids.
Like, there's no way we're getting this guy on board.
That's
And
awesome,
yeah, so
dude.
like I was a little, a little crushed at that point.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I'm riding a MotoTrax kit at that point. My father-in-law, his business that he owned was just down the street from where MotoTrax is their shop was, where they were manufacturing stuff. And he
That's wild.
knew that Randy, the original owner, had moved on by that point, and there was a new ownership had changed. There was a new company that was running MotoTrax, and we kind of skipped over the story of MotoTrax a little bit, but they were at that point when I applied for that job at Timbersled. They're actually MotoTrax is like looking for a general manager, like looking for somebody to come in and like take the reins.
Oh yeah. I talked to two different sets of like owners and sales guys there, because I was doing, Snowbike Nation, and I was kind of like, well, I'd like to ride a kit, and I talked to them, but like nothing ever came of it. And they just said it was just kind of a shit show.
Yeah. And I was at the, it was when Randy, who was the founder, left, kind of got pushed out or whatever.
Yeah.
He was the passion. He was the the inspiration. He came
force.
up.
Yeah.
He was the driving force. He was the creative person, was coming up with the designs, coming up with the fixes. And, he was the one doing it. So when he left, there's this huge void, and they brought some outside people in to run the company who had a motorcycle background. And that's really when the push to get it into racing really happened, like 2019, 2020. The kit, well, when they did that, the kit, they started distributing them through WPS.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like so they're on the second ownership group at that point. And the WPS thing was kind of sank the company. They sold a whole bunch of Snowbike kits through WPS, but the margins that they were selling at were so small that they basically bankrupt the company by selling a whole bunch of Snowbikes. They had, a big marketing campaign. They had this big push to have, demo fleets out all across the country. Lots of people working there. And
yeah, dude, Moto, they like I said, they were making a push. Like you saw MotoTrax everywhere, but like I said, I was not hearing good things about what was happening with the kits. And I think a lot of it was a lot of just little issues and getting customer service and stuff like that. So that makes sense.
Yeah, the customer service and honestly, the product development had more or less stopped.
Yeah.
When Randy left, there was an engineer that came in and was doing engineering work and designing new parts, but his focus was into racing. So his mindset was, developing the kit more to be more suitable for the racing environment instead of the mountain riding, which, the market is in the mountain riding, and the racing is, an ancillary.
It's like that. Yeah. It's like,
it's
mountain market's massive and the racing's just this teeny little blip.
Yeah. 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 And then you're in a market that's, snowmobiling is this and snowbiking is this, and the racing is like, even
it's like
hardly can even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, development, mountain riding development pretty much stopped at that point. They, spent all the money that they had.
And they're going up against, freaking Polaris now that has bought Timbersled, and they're just, marketing. It's just everywhere, so you're just seeing all of that stuff. And you got established players, CMX, Yeti, that had been doing this already. So yeah.
Yeah, they had had a history of all those guys had histories of building snowmobiles, or, they had a lot of experience to build on. And basically
this guy,
MotoTrax,
Robert Carroll, he brought up an interesting thing. If you make it race proof, it's going to ride on the mountain. But
Robert. Robert is the engineer that was working for MotoTrax, and I agree with you, Robert, that making it race proof, you guys bomb proofed a lot of the stuff that we're having issues, but I don't think we didn't improve the deep
Robert brings up a point too. He said, "You don't know the whole history." Yeah, totally, dude. I'm sure there's so many things that go on behind the scenes that we've got just a little taste or just a little insight into. So that'd be interesting. We might have to get on another one with Robert and bring him in here. That would actually be fun to get like him and Brandy and like get those guys in here a little bit more of the story. That'd be cool. So
I think we'll do that in a not live episode.
Yeah.
And before we go live with it, Robert's a great dude. Robert's been a big help for me since I bought MotoTrax. And awesome. The story, I mean, we're just skimming over the top of all the nuances that happen at MotoTrax. I mean, it's there's a lot of things that happened over 4 or 5 years.
What about didn't something happen with Polaris trying to serve a lawsuit against MotoTrax too?
Yeah, that was early on in like 17 to 18 winter that Polaris served a lawsuit to MotoTrax for a copyright or a patent infringement on the strut that mounts the kit, to the motorcycle. What's that?
And they didn't win.
MotoTrax didn't win.
No, I'm saying, Polaris actually won that.
Yeah. We had we're unable. So the strut that the MotoTrax used was came off the kit, and it was just a rigid piece of aluminum that had an eyelet on the top and an eyelet on the bottom. And that's what you could screw the eyelets in to adjust the ride height on there.
Yeah, just like their mountain horse one.
Just like their mountain horse. And so they had a patent for that strut, for a fixed strut. And so MotoTrax was, we came up with our IDT, which is our new strut that has a dampening system in it. So instead of being a fixed strut, it's a suspension strut.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up right here. So guys, if you guys haven't seen this, it's akin to and I've got a bunch of the Yeti kits too. It's kind of akin to the soft strut on the Yeti.
Yeah,
the Yeti
kit.
Whoops, there it is.
Yeah, it functions almost exactly like the Yeti strut. It's got elastomers inside of there, and you can adjust how many elastomers you have in there depending on how much travel you want it to have.
And it works. It's super easy, like simple, super like easy to use.
Yep, it's easy to use. It has a lot of adjustability in there. So if you want.
I'm just laughing, David. He goes, Kyle, when are you getting Polaris the bullies on? Dude, whenever they want to come on. No one from Polaris has reached out to me. So if they want to get on here and talk, they know who I am. They know where I'm at. I am game to have them on here.
And it's the law. Like they had a patent on it. MotoTrax infringed on the patent. I think Yeti had the same issue. That's when Yeti came out with their soft strut, was the same time, because they got the same notice from Polaris that we did, it's a bummer, but in reality, it made us, it made MotoTrax develop a better system that's benefited us ever since then. So thanks for helping us innovate.
And it's funny, people are popping in here saying not gonna lie, Polaris sued people, pissing me off. CMX also we know. I mean, at this point now, with the couple different conversations we've had, Polaris has come after CMX. Polaris is obviously they're going after Allen. That's all public knowledge. So anyhow, Cameron, you just said it's almost enough to make a guy not ride a timber sled. Like I mean. I don't know. I don't know the way they're going about it is the best way. Let's just put it at that. But I've got my whole opinion on that. We'll do that another time. So JP, so you guys, they developed this IDT. This was before you, right?
This was before me. Yep. Yeah. This happened I believe it happened in the 2018-19 winter was when, or no, 17-18 winter was when they came out with the IDT. So it was early on. This happened quite a while ago.
Got it. Okay. So 2020, 21, like walk us through, let's kind of get back to what you were saying. You don't want to do this, the ski thing. You apply at timber sled. You don't get that. So now what year is this? And now what are you thinking?
Yeah. So, so we're like 20, that was the spring of 2020. I'm seriously thinking I'm going to start my own snowbike company. I mean, that's where I was at. I was coming up with, I don't even want to talk to him because there's still ideas I'm working on developing, but I've got my own ideas about snow bikes that I want to do. And, looking at the feasibility of doing that, which is my first look into like how much money it really takes to build a snow bike and like all those logistical things about it, and
it ain't easy.
Oh gosh, no, it's not easy or cheap by any means.
No.
What I was saying is, it's funny, when I applied for that job at Timber Sled, I'd never ridden a Timber Sled before. Had I applied for a job at MotoTrax, I probably would have got it. I probably would have got.
Whoa. You said they were looking for a GM. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And like in 2020, they were on. So the second ownership group had sold MotoTrax to a new company, which was kind of, I kind of describe it as like a holding company, as a company that buys companies.
Yeah.
And either builds them up and sells them, or they break them apart and sell them, And so that third company that owned MotoTrax was looking for somebody to run it, and for whatever reason, I never called, never dialed MotoTrax up and said, hey, do you guys have any jobs open? Which would have completely changed my trajectory, because then they would have had somebody at the helm who was passionate and had, ideas and all this stuff.
And then you wouldn't be owning it like you do now.
It totally could have changed. I could have just been, the dude working for this company that, maybe they had a bunch of money. Maybe they would have wanted to drop it on MotoTrax. I don't know. But so I didn't. Go through the summer, ski season comes around again, and I'm like just dragging. Like, it was the first year I worked in the ski industry that it was hard to get up and go to work.
You were over it by then, dude. You were ready to move on.
I was super invested, like I had crew, guys that had worked for me for years, and I had this, this dream house that I had built. I spent 6 years of my life, like, every minute that I had building this sweet house that I was planning on living in forever. And I've got, a wife, and at this point I've got 2 kids, and, so it's like, just didn't know what to do. Ski season,
This is the dilemma for everybody listening. This is the dilemma of a driven, freaking, passionate individual. Cause I can 100% relate, bro. Like, I'm just like, okay, I got to do something. Like, I don't want to do software sales for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, I'm making good money, but I got to go do my shit, So
got to do something that you got the passion for,
Look what Cameron said. This is awesome. JP accidentally made the best decision for MotoTrax. That's awesome, dude. That's great.
Yeah. So I get through the ski season. I'm like bummed on it. Like, but I'm just like, I'm not going to leave something that I love to do.
Are you talking to your wife about this? I mean, does she know, like, you're
just... Oh yeah. We're fully on board, like not on board, but like, she knows she's ready to move, do something else. She wants to see me, driven and passionate, and, and I had lost that spark, the drive that I had for, since I had met her too, so she wanted something more for me. And ski season's about over. It's like, geez, it must have been like the first or the second week in April. I get a call from my wife, and she's like, guess what? And I'm like, what? She's like, MotoTrax is for sale. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, my dad just called me and said that they're selling MotoTrax. And I'm like, oh my God, we've got to buy it. Like,
bro,
we got to do this. Like, how can we make this happen? I was like, how much do they want for it? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't know anything. Dude, JP, hold on. I got to just back this up a little bit, because unbeknownst to you, when you meet this you know, your wife, this woman, she literally is like, she finds the first snow bike for you, and then she's like, oh, MotoTrax is for sale. So like, dude, that's some like divine intervention, man. Her dad was literally, his shop was right down the road from MotoTrax. Like that's crazy,
Yeah,
man. That's kind of
that's
wild.
crazy. And he had told how that came about. He had told he's got, at this point, I think, I don't know if he had 3 or 4 MotoTrax kits.
Yeah.
And and he had told, he knows the struggle. He goes into the shop and sees what was going on and now what's going on, like nothing.
Yeah.
And so he told him, he's like, hey, if you guys are ever going to shut the doors, let me know and I'll come buy a bunch of parts from you for these kits, because I've got all of them. I want to buy stuff to keep them going for, as long as I can. So when they decided they're closing the doors, and they were like, well, who, are we just going to let this thing go, or are we going to try to sell it? And Ilif, who's worked at MotoTrax from the beginning, he's like, well, I've got this dude. He's super passionate about it. He owns a business just down the street. Like, he might want to buy MotoTrax, which is Courtney's dad. And so the MotoTrax guys call up Jeff and are like, hey, we're selling this thing. We're shutting it down. We're not going to operate it anymore. Do you want to buy it?
At this point, it's kind of, it's kind of a fire sale, because it's been so many issues. Companies like that. And actually, Robert said Angel Alliance was the name of them. Those type of companies, they get into that stuff. Oh, we're going to make a bunch of money now. They're like, dude, we're just losing money. Like, let's just get rid of this thing and have it off of our portfolio. So, investors and everybody that's a part of this isn't like, what is this little piece losing money,
Yeah. So they were there like, we're either gonna, if we can find somebody who wants to buy it, we're gonna sell it to them, or it's just not gonna exist anymore.
It's just gonna go away.
It's just gonna go away.
Yeah.
And
Robert said they were total investors. Totally, Robert. Like, 100%. That's what they were doing. They bought this just to invest and flip it, and they're sucking.
Yeah, and there was nobody. I think they might have thought the guy that was there was gonna, move it forward, and that just wasn't what Ilif was gonna, wanted to do, or wasn't in his wheelhouse to take it on. And so we got off the phone with Courtney, and I'm like, dial up her dad, and like, dude, what's how much they want for it? The same question I just asked Courtney: can we buy it? Can we afford it? Like, blah blah. And he's like, well, if you guys are interested, I'll call him back, and maybe I can go and set up a meeting. So like the next week, like 1 week from there, Jeff sets up with a meeting, because they're in Spokane, just down the street. Sets up a meeting with them, gets gets the rundown on what they're doing. Says, my son-in-law is pretty interested, or potentially interested, and made the contact, and we get in touch with the group that's owns MotoTrax at that point,
the
and investment group, and start negotiations and talking about it. So we're probably like the 3rd week in April by the time this happens.
2021.
2021, yeah, when we start, we actually start talking about.
And you got COVID going on too, all the bullshit that's going on with that. So.
Oh yeah, which is a whole, the ski industry was in upheaval at that point. It was all sorts of craziness going there. That was the winter after the big shutdown. That was the second. COVID.
So you go and meet with these guys.
Yep. So Jeff met with them. Then we get in contact with the phone. So 2 weeks after we had heard about it, me and Courtney and the kids drive over to Spokane, have a meeting with the MotoTrax guys.
And you didn't know, you had no idea. You had no idea on numbers yet.
Still didn't know when we came over here what the number was, what it was going to be. We were just interested. So we came over here. They show us what they've got, what actually is for sale. Kind of gave us a ballpark figure on what they wanted. We came home and said, holy cow, like, we can't, we can't afford
a lot of
this.
money.
Yeah. What are we going to do? And like, but Courtney's like, well, do you want to do this? You want MotoTrax? You want to buy this company? And I'm like, yeah, this is, there was never a doubt in my mind. I'm like, yes, we have to do it.
This random Facebook user, he said, "Where did you find this unicorn?" That's awesome. Courtney is a unicorn out there. I'm sure you already knew that though.
Oh, I definitely know that. Yeah, she
That's
is
so
amazing.
cool. Dude, that's
And
so rad.
so we started strategizing. We're like, okay, well, how much, what do we have? What can we do here? And we started penciling it out. Like, what's it going to take? We kind of, one of the first things we kind of figured is like Montana, the manufacturing, especially in Helena, there's not a lot of options for manufacturing stuff. So we're like, really, we've got to be in Spokane to do this, or in that vicinity.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. Like, well, we've got to sell our house, which, was tough, still tough. We both, it's still hard for both of us. We built this.
Put your heart and soul into it, man.
Oh, yeah, something, every little thing, everything we wanted in a house that we could have easily lived with for the rest of our lives. And say, okay, well, first thing, we're gonna have to sell our house. The housing, then that was honestly, that was like it was the craziest thing. The housing market is just going absolutely crazy,
especially
in 2021,
Montana, dude. It's just going nuts.
Oh, Spokane was worse. I mean, there was just nothing available over here. So we were like, we put our house on the market. Well, backtrack just a little bit. So we meet with, 2 weeks after we heard about it is for sale, we meet with them, come home. A week later, we make them an offer. They accept our offer. They accept our first offer, which, yeah.
You're like, damn it, we should have went lower.
Well, I should listen to my wife more often because she is incredibly smart. Should have went lower. They should never accept your first offer, but whatever. It happened. Move on.
They were ready to just get out of it, dude.
Yeah, they were. Anyways, make an offer, they accept it, and we're just like, oh shit.
Here we go.
Here we go. Like, this is really happening. And we set the date May 22nd. So like 5 weeks from when we heard MotoTrax was for sale, we're the new owners of MotoTrax. We came back over, signed the papers, and now we own.
Selling your house?
We were in the process of selling the house, but it hadn't sold yet. So that was, I mean, the transitional financing thing was a whole, a whole nother issue.
Yeah, and you don't have to get into the weeds of it, but I mean, was this like, hey, this is yours, you're paying this with cash and debt, of course, like however you want to structure that. But I mean, this was like your sole owner, 100%.
Yeah, we own MotoTrax, free and clear. That's
freaking crazy, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was, that was the housing market, but was great. I wish I had a picture of our house right here to show you guys. But we built a beautiful 3-story, 4-bedroom, 3,600 square foot house on the side of a ski area that you can ski into and ski out of.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like paradise,
Yeah. So we had worked our butts off for a long time and had built something that was pretty amazing. So we sold it. We sold our life's ambition at that point, or life's, what we had achieved at that point, and moved over, moved to Spokane, bought the first house. I mean, we were struggling. Houses were, a house would come up for $400,000 and it was selling for $750,000, $800,000. Houses were selling for twice what people were originally asking for.
That's insane.
And, it was crazy. And we didn't know. I mean, time is ticking down. We had sold our house. Our house sold pretty fast. And and then we're like, okay, so we're cleaning our house out and we're moving stuff over. You know, we've got Courtney's parents have a barn that we're storing our stuff in, so we're just clearing our house out, moving all this stuff over here with no prospect of where we're going to live. We're like,
hold on, back up just a little bit. So the company, then, when you buy it, what exactly did you buy? Is it like, here's the inventory, and you probably don't want the name itself, like the actual, you know, LLC or whatever, because of the issues, but yeah, what exactly did you get? They're just like, here's all the inventory, good luck.
Yep. So it was, we started a new company. So we're Rev Enterprises. It's the name. We do business as MotoTrax now. So we bought all the inventory. We bought all the marketing material that they had. We bought the name. We bought the website. We bought the phone number. All the stuff
included.
All the patents. Yep. We own all the patents. Yeah. So we bought everything except for the actual company, the LLC that ran it before, which as it turns out was important because there was some unpaid bills out there to lots of different vendors who had been shorted over the years, which is incredibly unfortunate. I feel terrible about it, and we've had some people come, you know, get in contact with us and say, hey, you owe us this money. And we're like, well, you know, we don't.
That's not
here's
us,
the people
dude.
that here's the people that owe money, and, you know, this is their contact information, and, you know, good luck. Which sucks because, you know, some of these people are key industry people who you don't want to just, you know,
but
you don't want to,
but it's not on you.
No,
but it's not on you.
It's not on me, but it's my company now. That's my brand, you know, but you know, we're not, first of all, the debt's not ours. And secondly, we're not in a position to pay these bills to these people, you know? And so that sucks. Like I said, some of them are industry people that I would like to be friends with. Hopefully we can, and hopefully they understand our position, you know? And then some of those vendors that got shorted are people that we still have to buy stuff from. So having to go back to a company that got, you know, shorted $40,000 and say, hey, I know this old MotoTrax, you know, never paid you this money, but I need to buy whatever it is, you know, skis, bogey wheel, you know, track, whatever.
So you buy everything, you get it, and now it's like, okay, you guys sell the house and you got to get over here. And this is what, 2021, right? This is like,
2021.
What was the month again?
We bought the company in May. We sold our house in June, and then we closed on our new house the last day in July.
Okay, so you're getting over here just about when fall's about to hit. So I mean, before the snowbike season is getting ready to kick off. And did you know, JP, did you like understand too, like to what point, like I told you, I'm like, dude, I thought MotoTrax was gone. Like, did you know that that's what you were getting into? Like, oh, people don't even think we exist anymore. Or were you like, oh, everybody, yeah, we're good.
I didn't think it had fallen away as much as it had. And I didn't, so I thought MotoTrax was still kind of alive out there.
Still relevant.
Still relevant. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. I thought MotoTrax was still relevant, still being talked about. And I had no idea that it had kind of just, you know, fallen behind so much, you know.
Just kind of fizzled out, I think, is a way to put it. It just kind of fizzled.
Yeah, it just fizzled. It just kind of disappeared from the scene. And I had some idea. I mean, I knew what the sales numbers were, you know, for all of the seasons leading up to when we bought it. And so, you know, that was a pretty good indicator that it didn't have a lot of relevance in the market. But I didn't know the animosity, or, you know, the bad feeling that was out there with a lot of MotoTrax customers. My experience has been pretty good, you know. Really, I really hadn't had any significant issues, you know, with the product after the beginning, after I got the first issues. And I was, you know, little issues that I came up with just in my nature, instead of calling up MotoTrax and saying, hey, do you have a fix for this? I'm making my own bushings.
That's what I was going to
making,
say. See, you have the engineering kind of mindset where you're just like, well, I'll just freaking fix it, versus a guy like me. I'm like, I don't freaking know, bro. This shit ain't working. What do we do? What do I do? You know? And if they're like, well, deal with it, then of course you're gonna be like, well, screw you, dude. I'm not gonna freaking, you guys suck, you know? So yeah, you have a different mentality.
Different mentality. So I'd been fixing stuff and upgrading stuff, and like, you know, been fixing some of these problems that other people were really getting burned over. And I kind of moved on from that stuff, because it's like, oh, you just need to do this. It's a little fix, and now it's not an issue anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think anybody that buys a business or starts a business, especially buying a brand and trying to bring a brand back, is more difficult than starting a new one in a lot of ways, because
especially when it's going down. You know, it's different if it's a good brand, but when it's on the downturn, that's when it's really difficult.
Yeah. So that's, you know, I underestimated the challenges that we would have in getting back and becoming relevant again. And, you know,
well, you're becoming relevant now. Like, that's what we're doing, man. We're freaking, you know, that's the whole goal is to show that people, like, you know, you're a real dude, real snowbiker that bought this company, that you want to hear from people. You want to make your product better. You want to innovate. You want to make new stuff. Like, that's why you bought it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly, I want to make it better. I want to go snowbiking. I want to improve on what we have. You know, I want to take some of those lessons that I had learned and share them with other MotoTrax customers, you know? Yeah. And I like people.
So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I like people. I enjoy, I mean, that's one of the great things is talking to snowbikers. You know, people call up and want parts, you know, and I spend so much time on the phone, because people call up and then you're swapping snowbiking stories with dudes. And, you know, I mean, yeah.
Oh, I get it, dude. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. I would seriously probably spend a quarter amount of the time I do on the phone if it was just like, yep, I can get you this, talk to you later, you know. But everybody's got a story. Everybody's, you know, and I love hearing them. I love sharing my story, and I love, you know, connecting with customers. And
honestly, this is part of why I like doing this too, is because I get so many questions from people, and I'm just like, I literally can't answer all these questions. So I'm just going to do content, and then we'll just answer those questions, because it is fun. You know, the snowbike community, it's still very small. It's still very niche. Everybody's really passionate about it. Everybody wants to like learn and to do more. So it's a fun community to be involved in for sure right now.
Yeah, no, it's great. For me, it's a lot like being working at a small ski area, which is what I worked at, as opposed to being at some big resort. You know, I feel like snowbiking is very similar. The snowbike industry is very similar to that. You know, compared to like the snowmobile industry, you know, the snowmobile industry is like the big resorts. You know, there's lots of people. Nobody does everything. Everybody's got a, you know, a special niche that they do their work in. They advertise, or they, you know, develop or engineer, you know, and that's great. That works, you know. But the small business works too, you know, and it's a different experience for customers. It's a different experience for employees. You know,
totally. So you come in here then July of 21, and you're like, here you go. Here's all the shit. Now, I mean, what do you do, man? Like what's the next step for you?
I mean, I had no idea, Kyle. I was like, I'm like, what do you do? What do
dude? Love it.
We got to start selling snowbikes. Like, we have to sell. We have to start selling snowbikes right now. And like, you know, I had a long time. There was one MotoTrax employee left. Had been with MotoTrax pretty much since the beginning, and he came to work for me, and I relied a lot on Iliff. I'm like, man, what do we need to do? What do we have? What do we need? What's going on? What are the issues?
And you're coming into this with like, you don't really have like a background in sales and marketing and like that. So, I mean, you know about it obviously, but like that wasn't your MO.
No, I would say I was a manager. I had it, depending on the season, 5 to 10 people that worked for me. But, I really have always been like a problem solver especially in the role that I played at the ski area, whatever came up, whether it's, chairlift issue or snowcats or snowmobiles, snowmaking, all that stuff. I came in and I, recognized the problem.
You're thinking on the fly. You're looking at, oh yeah, this is what we can do to fix it. This is how we can make this better.
Yeah. What do we need to do to fix it for right now? What do we need to do to fix it in the long term? And then in the longer term, what do we need to do to make this even better? So we don't have these issues, or to overcome shortcomings that a machine has. So that's what I had been doing for, the 15 years I was at Great Divide, and really just my life in general before that, just all the stuff that I did as a kid. And, so yeah, it was, trial by fire, get your feet wet, jumped right in, we
like most
found a house.
Owners, when you get a business or start a business or whatever, a lot of trial by fire.
Oh yeah. You have no idea. There's no way. It's like being a parent. Like there's no way until you actually have it. You can say this and you say that, but you don't know what's going to happen until you're right in the thick of it, and just put your head down. And
I think that this is, especially in the culture nowadays, and what we see is, with the social media, and I've told people this, it's like this glorified, people see business owners, entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. And like, oh, it's so cool. And it is cool. It's great. There's a lot of awesome things about it. But like, I tell everybody, I'm like, do you want to work 24/7? Like I take no days off unless I maybe can. I'm like, you're working all the time because you don't have a choice. Like you have to, right? Yeah. Like there's no one else to pick up the slack. Now, eventually you get to a point and you're building it so that, okay, I can take, I've always had in my mind, like I've got the 5-year plan. In 5 years, I'll take a vacation, and I mean, it's not for everyone, and it is freaking hard. It's a grind every freaking day, man, as you know.
Oh, it is. And that's, I was well positioned. I was used to working 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, coming from what I did in the ski industry. And I never had any illusions like, oh, I'm going to be own my own business. And I'm going to be able to sit back and, and
sip
crack the whip and get all that stuff done. Like I knew from the beginning, of the one thing that I did know is that I'm going to have to dig in and work my butt off to make this happen,
Yep.
And that's what I did. We finally found a house. Luckily it had, a big shop. The shop that we're set up in is 35 by 90. So we've got like a pretty big building to work out of. And yeah, you've got a pretty big, you've got a big shop there, dude. I mean, and like one side is where you had all the inventory, and then you've got your shop where you're, I mean, I'm looking at thinking, yeah, I freaking would love to have a big shop like that. That's awesome. Yeah. You saw it's broken down into 2 halves. So we have, half of it is basically cold storage. We have, we keep all the parts we have in one side, and then the other side is all the assembly and, my office and all that stuff. So we've got, we ended up with a nice place here. And that was one of the things that made it so hard to find a house over here is, finding a place that had a shop. Trying to find a place with a shop, because just the nature of where we were starting out at, we couldn't afford to pay, $2,000 or $3,000 a month to rent a big shop out, in the industrial park.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you buy it. So what's next now? Like what was the early challenges you faced right away when you buy this company and it's like go time?
The biggest thing was addressing the immediate issues that the kits were having was my sole focus, or not sole focus, but my primary focus. I mean, twofold. I had to get a handle on what parts we had, what we needed to make to get into the season. So we had everything to build kits and to sell them. So that was the first challenge is figuring out what we had, what we needed to make, finding people to make the parts for us that we needed. Like I said, some vendors had been burned. Some people didn't want to work with us anymore. Some people were still stoked, that wanted to work with us. And so, forming those new relationships with the vendors that we have to make this successful, was the first big challenge. And then taking the product and saying, okay, what are the most pressing weaknesses that I can't feel good about selling the Snowbike if it's going to keep doing this, And we had that first season, we had two major issues that had to be addressed before I sold any Snowbikes.
Yeah, before you were comfortable and confident about selling them.
Yeah. I didn't, I just didn't feel right about. I know this is a problem. It's been a problem for a couple years. It hasn't been, fixed to my satisfaction. What are we going to do to, for me to feel comfortable putting my name on this product?
So what were those things? What were those things right out of the gate? I mean, you've addressed a few, but what were some other things that right away you're like, okay, I got to fix this. I got to do this.
Well, the two things, there was the bulkhead had an issue where, in some instances one of the ears of the bulkhead was fracturing or and sometimes breaking off.
Here, I'll see if I can pull this up so that you can kind of show this for everybody watching right now. So fracturing off.
Yeah, where the bulkhead attaches to the rails. Let's see if we can get a picture to come up. I don't think we have a bulkhead. We don't have a bulkhead for sale on our online store. So a part of the bulkhead on the right-hand side was breaking. Some, while Robert's on here, Robert had taken a step of heat treating the part after it was welding, which
right over
significantly. Here. Right back. Yeah, to the rear, just a little bit of there where the rear bolt for the bulkhead goes in.
Got it.
Robert had started having that part be annealed or heat treated after it was welded, which made a significant improvement. But they were still people were having them break there. So just that was probably the simplest thing. It's just just upping the size of the diameter of the part that was breaking and making it a little bigger, actually going back to what MotoTrax had originally done in the 2017 season, and they'd gotten away from it for I don't know exactly why. My guess is probably cost. I know our welders, the person who's welding these now says that the smaller diameter tubing is way easier to weld, and the aluminum's less expensive. And so I think it was cost related, but it was one of those unintended consequences.
Robert just came in and said wait too. So
wait. Yeah.
And
wait.
Wait's always one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, wait, but at the same time, it's like I'd rather have it weigh a little more and not break, right?
Yeah. And that was one of those things that I had personally experienced. I broke two of those bulkheads. And MotoTrax was, luckily, they were good with me about warranting the bulkheads. But that was when
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, when I was having problems with them was right at the end right before I had bought the company.
I'll see if I can see it there. What okay, so bulkheads, what else were some of the issues that you were like, I gotta fix this?
So the other one was a problem that where the articulation takes place down, we called it the rad dampener. We looked at it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, right here.
Yep, right at the bottom of the suspension link. And it originally was a solid piece. that allowed it to articulate, and then and it had some bushings on the side, and the bushings kept blowing out, and there was no really hold up. That the track would the rails would kind of flop from side to side, and so they I don't know if it was Randy or Robert that came up with the design. They made a clamshell that kind of encapsulated that Heim joint in there and restricted the movement of the articulation a little bit. It definitely wasn't at 15 degrees anymore. It was probably more in the 5 or 6 degrees of articulation. And it had a through bolt that held those two pieces in tension in the center where the Heim joint was. And when, bigger dudes or people that were riding it and jumping it hard were having problems with those bolts bending or even breaking. So that was just, something.
So what'd you do?
It was working. So we kind of went with a hybrid design and went back to a solid shaft, but came up with the elastomers and the new caps and some hard plastic sliders that allowed made it stronger. You can go pull up the product and then go to the rad.
Where'd it go?
Right go up to the top. I think it was at the top.
Right here.
Right there. Yeah. So that's what we went to. Instead of a two-piece design, we went back to that solid 70-75 aluminum shaft. And then you've got the black HDPE or UHMW sliders in there. And then you've got the 1/2 inch of elastomer. And then you've got the aluminum cap on the outside that those get pressed in under so the caps are under tension, and that's that holds the kit so it wants to sit upright.
Does this come apart so that you can slide the suspension arm in there?
Yeah, there's a circlip on each side, or a spiral clip on each side of that. So you got to compress those rubber those polymer bushings, and then you take that spiral clip out, and then the aluminum cap and the polymer and the plastic piece come out.
Got it. And so have you guys had any issues since doing that?
No, we've had no, we haven't had any issues with those. I mean, it's been solid.
Was this a design you came up with, or how did you guys come up with
this? That's something that I had a couple different ideas early on, and as soon as we got that first winter, it was like October, and the first little bit of snow was on the ground. I had my first design for that new piece up, and I was out hammering through the dirt and the snow and testing stuff out, and had a couple different variations and came up with the that rad system that we've got now.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, talk us through a couple other things. I know of a couple of the other ones that you did. So what else for you was?
That was what got us started that first year. After I came up with with the solution for those two issues, I felt like we can go. I feel good selling these kits. I know from my experience that they get around in the snow. This will make them reliable. So that was really the extent of what we did that first season to get us up and running and start selling snow bikes.
Okay.
And then we got on the snow and started doing the R&D to see in more detail what the kit was doing, what would make it perform better, what were some of its some of the things that were holding it back. And
so what were the changes that you made last year? I know you showed me the track tensioner, the idler, or not the idler, but the bogey wheels.
Yep, the track tensioning system. So that was that was, I mean, maybe we can take this story all the way back to the beginning when the 2017 MotoTrax kits came out. Randy had a great idea. had potential to be awesome. To set the track tension in the back, they used two shock cylinders that were mounted to the rear axle. And so the idea was you'd loosen the rear axle, and then those two cylinders would push the track back and set the tension, the ideal tension on there. And then you'd tighten the rear axle up, and wham, you have the perfect track tension set. No problem.
Damn.
Well, it didn't work like that. There was no mechanical stop to keep that axle from going forward. There was those hydraulic cylinders, but they're not locked out. So if you're standing up and you land the back of the kit hard into the snow, or you hit it back, you're rolling it back, you run it into a stump when you're rolling it back out of a drift or whatever, that axle get pushed forward. Usually it'd happen on one side. The rear idlers would get cocked sideways. You take off, and track would come off from that. So I think it happened almost right away that first season. Randy came up with a design that, an additional part that bolted on the outside and pulled tension.
Oh, you're saying the first season it came out?
Yep, the 2016-17 model year.
Okay.
He came up with a fix for that, which pulled the track back. There was a bolt on the back side of the rails that you tighten up, pull the track back, and then you tighten the bolt back down. Then you had a mechanical stop so the wheels could not go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that worked. The biggest drawback to that was now you've got your tensioner bolts are hanging out behind your track rails, and they're running like a half inch, to an inch away from where the track is coming over the rear idler wheels, which 95% of the time is not an issue until you come up with the random circumstances that happens when you're out in the woods, where you get a log or a stick or a stump or a rock or whatever it is, gets up in your track, comes around there, grabs that track tensioner, flips it up, and now you're in the same situation where you've got no mechanical stop holding your track back.
So you guys literally just basically you flipped it around and made it so that they're not going to go back.
Yep. So last year we came out with a new platform, whatever you want to call it. It uses the same suspension link, but it's got new rails and it's got new side panels. But the new rails.
Yeah. Why the new rails?
Well, so we'll finish on the tensioner. So the tensioner, the old rails didn't have enough aluminum to put a different, like a pushing set of track tensioners on there. Most, if you look at any snowmobile, all the other snow bikes out there, the tensioner bolt comes from the front of the track and pushes the idler wheels back to set the tension. And then the old MotoTrax kits were in the back, and they were pulling it into tension, which puts the bolt in the back. So we basically, flipped the process around, and now we have a slider that the axle's on, and we have a stud that the bolt goes through. So you run the bolt in, pushes the tracks back, and holds it in place. Now there's nothing hanging out back behind that can get grabbed by a stump.
Yeah, I never had any issues. Like, it was fine. You set the tension. It's just like all the other kits. You just set the tension, and it's good. You just keep, check it, whatever.
Yeah. It's tucked in. There's not, you're not going to have any issues anymore with that thing getting whacked. Other than the random crazy stuff that happens when you're out snowbiking, I suppose. But
yeah, there's always the random crazy freaking shit that happens. You're like, how the hell did you do that, dude?
Yeah, so that there was a whole kind of different design that first winter that I owned MotoTrax. I'm out riding and and being a lot more critical about the performance of the kit than I had been before. Now this is my baby, and I'm trying to make it better as opposed to just riding it recreationally. And I noticed the track was gaining tension as the suspension would go through. The skid was going back away from the main drive shaft faster than the suspension was coming up. So as it go through the travel, the track is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And, you know, depending on what kind of track tension you started with, you know, if you have that thing bottomed out, your track can be banjo string tight when it's fully compressed, which contributes to a bunch of things. You know, one, you're putting a ton of pressure on your drive shaft and the bearings, because every time you cycle through that suspension, you're loading up those bearings, and then you know, the bearings are unloading when the suspension comes up. And so it's just constantly loading and unloading the drive shaft bearings, which wears on everything. Right. And you know, so that's an issue. And the bigger issue is when the track gets tight like that, you're losing power. And that was how I first noticed it. You're climbing up a hill, going through a set of rollers or whatever. And every time you bottom out or get deep in the travel, your bike picks back up. I'm like, well, geez, you can't have that happening. So that kind of was the start of this whole change of moving the main pivots on the suspension forward towards the drive shaft more.
Got it.
Which changes the pivot point for where the track comes around the drivers. And now on the new Alpha kits, as the suspension travels, you have very little track growth. So if you have 3/4 of an inch of sag under your rails, you know, when it's not compressed, you compress it. Now you've only lost a 1/2 inch a 1/4 inch of that clearance, you know. So keeping the track tension consistent as it goes through its travel.
And that made a big difference, I imagine, when you made that change.
Yeah, it made a huge difference. It's constant. It doesn't, you know, you don't have that power getting robbed out of the kit every time you get into the suspension. You don't have to run the track quite as loose. I mean, that was the way to combat it on the older kits, is to run your tracks
really loose,
as loose as you could, without having them ratcheting or something, you know, and then you could combat that issue. But the looser it is, the easier it is for something to take it off the rails, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely that happy medium.
Yep. It's like a chain. You want to run it. There's a sweet spot in there. You want to run it where it's got some freedom to move, but not so loose that it's going to come off.
Yep. So that's why you had to redesign the rails.
Yeah. So that was the impetus. We moved it forward. We moved the pivot point forward 2 inches.
Wow.
But the rear idlers still needed to be in the same place. So we were able to lengthen the track rails, made them 2 inches longer. So our 129 kit actually has 2 more inches of rail on the snow, with the same length of track. That's the 120 kit's the same way. So you get a little bigger footprint.
So it's almost like what is that? What is the footprint then? I'm curious now, like how that looks. Like, do you know what that compares to with all the other kits? Like how much of your track is on the ground at any given point in time?
Everybody's is a little bit different. It puts us, we were behind. Our 129 was short. You know, we were probably 3 inches behind, like, a timber sled for the footprint on the ground. And between lengthening the rails in the back to accommodate moving the pivot forward, and then we altered the radius in the front a little bit. We gained 3 inches of footprint by changing the location where that mounts. So Robert
just mentioned, he just said that was the best thing that needed to be done. The geometry was off. He came up with the IDS to compensate for that because the investors didn't want to scrap the inventory. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And the IDS allowed it when it compressed, that took up the slack in the old, in the original design. If that IDS in the rear was rigid, it wouldn't allow the kit to go through its full range of travel. That rear arm had to get smaller for the travel to get, to get through the range of the travel. And originally kits before Robert did the IDS, they just used a real simple coil spring in the back that allowed that to move. But it wasn't
stiff enough.
Wasn't stiff enough, and it bounced a lot. And we'd still been offering that until this season. Now we've gotten away. We're not going to sell any new kits with that coil spring in the back. Even our entry level kit has an IDS system on it with an air shock.
Just a better setup.
Yeah. The entry level kits have more of an entry level shock, where the alpha kits have the Öhlins TTX, which is like a super high end shock.
Mountain bike shock. So I thought there was a couple other things too. These that you said you did. Maybe I'm wrong.
What do we got here? So I mean, those are the big changes for last year for this. Moving that forward, the suspension pivot forward gave us the ability to lengthen the rails out, change the track tensioning system in the back. And then it had a benefit that I hadn't really thought of until the first time I got on the kit, which was we're putting the pivot point closer towards the ski, which made the ski lighter. So the alpha kits handle a lot better on the trail, just because there's even less ski pressure than the previous versions of the kits had.
I know the other big thing, and that's the ski, because I remember you did something, you moved it forward, right? Or
that was that out of all the stuff we did last year that we just got done talking about, moving the track around and stuff, the simplest thing that we did last year that probably made almost as big of a difference as all the stuff we did in the back was made a real simple block that mounts the ski 1 inch closer towards the bike. I mean, just one inch, you're further forward on the ski.
So it'd be this.
Show that the ski. That attaches the bottom of the tower, and then it should be the ski base adapter is what it's called.
Oh, ski base adapter.
Yeah, just looks like a little aluminum bar. Where we at? But yeah, so the ski base adapter allows us to mount the. There you go, right there, left-hand side. Yeah, the simplest little thing right there allows us to mount the ski. We're mounted 1 inch further forward on the ski, makes the front of the ski shorter and the back of it longer, which makes it want to stay straight when you're going down the road.
I just want to say for everyone, and I think what's really unique to JP will get into and showcase how the forks, how the clamps work. Well, there are no clamps, but how it attaches to your front forks. But when I first saw the ski, and I was like, that ski's skinny. Like, I'm like, is that going to work very well? I'm thinking in my mind, and I told JP that, and he's like, well, it's worked pretty good. And obviously I've ridden every ski on the market at this point. Well, actually, the only one I haven't ridden is the Quiver ski, but anyhow, so, I was blown away. Like, it just worked. It did well. And I didn't find that, it didn't have any weird characteristics that was such a skinny ski. It is wider than the Simmons ski, I believe, but it's longer too. Right. And that's part of it. It's a longer ski.
Yeah. We make up for the narrowness by it being a little bit longer. And it works good. There's some benefit to having a wider ski, that you're getting closer to your track footprint. So you're packing, you're preconditioning the snow a little bit more with a wider ski. But it floats. It's 10 inches wide compared to, 11 or 12 inch ski, which some of the other snow bikes are using.
11 and a half and 12. Yeah.
So we're a little bit narrower. We're about 4 inches longer than what most of the other skis are. So it's, you know, it ends up being fairly comparable for, you know, surface area on the snow.
Yeah, I wonder what the overall footprint of it is. Probably, yeah, pretty comparable.
It's pretty close. We're probably, you know, we're probably a few square inches shorter, or, you know, less square inches of surface area than some of the, you know, the bigger skis out there. But you know, it tracks good, especially with the ski base adapter we were just talking about. It really changed the handling characteristics of it. It made it track straight, going down, you know, the roadways, harder surfaces. And then when you get in the deeper snow, not having so much ski out in front of the mower allows it to turn easier in deep snow, without having to fight it so much. And
the other thing too, guys, is as you're looking, and if you come on the website, you know, and it's moto-trax.com, TRAX.com for anyone listening to this. If you notice the cost of everything, it's freaking like, wow, that's only $80 for a ski, freaking $35 for a brake rotor cover. Like, the prices for everything is like uber reasonable. So that's also really nice. And I like bashed, I don't even know if I showed you, dude, I bashed the shit out of that brake rotor cover. Like, I looked at, I mean, dude, it's got gouges and rocks. I mean, and it worked all season. It's like $35 for a new one.
No, you have an aluminum one, I think, on your kit, Kyle.
Oh, is that different than this one?
Yeah, so we have two different options. We've got the UHMW one there that you're looking at, and then we've got a billet.
Here it is, the billet. Oh yeah, that's what I have. So it's, I mean, even then it's $100, dude.
Yeah, so the billet one is like indestructible.
Yeah, dude. I looked at mine a couple times. I was like, damn, what the hell did we hit, man? Like that. I can't believe it didn't break something. We had
a customer that hit a boulder in fifth gear wide open going across a field, hit it with the brake guard, and just absolutely, you know, just completely crumpled the whole side panel from front to back. It was like, I mean, I was blown away. You know, it's probably like 10 inches shorter, the right side panel.
Jeez.
And the billet cover was still intact, and the rotor underneath it was still intact. But the drive was broken. I mean, everything else on the kit was broken from, you know, just getting smashed.
Your pin going as fast as you can.
Yeah, coming to a dead stop. You know, ruined the whole kit, but the billet brake guard saved the rotor.
Well,
which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you don't want getting bashed. So, go ahead. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying, every time somebody calls up and says that, they're like, "Oh, I smashed my brake, my brake cover, and it ruined my rotor, and the rotor took out the brake pads." I'm like, "Well, spend $100, buy the aluminum one, and you'll never have it happen again." Yeah. And some people buy it, and some people call back like a couple months or weeks later, and they're like, "Yeah, I should have bought the aluminum one because I need another rotor and I need another set of brake pads." And
save yourself the trouble. So let's see. We were hitting on. Oh, the ski was what we were hitting on. So the ski. You also have this front wheel kit that really just. I mean, it's like super simple to hook on, which is so nice. Like, I mean, I think it's probably one of the simplest ones, if not maybe the simplest one to hook on. I mean, it's like, look at this thing, guys. It's so easy. You have this little, I'm like pointing at it with my hand. You have that little piece. Oh, do you got one there?
Yeah, I've got one right here. See if I can get it positioned so everybody can see it.
Yeah, here, I'll make you so that you can. Okay, there we go.
So good angle. So you got the one pin, pull the pin out, it's gonna fall off, and the wheel kit just pops right out.
It takes literally like 5 seconds, dude. It's just so easy to put on.
Yeah, and put it, when it's on the bike, you stick it in there, you got a pin to rest it on. I'm struggling to get a good view here. Pushes in, you put the pin back through, And it's not like a tiny little hole that you got to find. It's, you got a big window to find it in. It locks in there nice and tight. And then
that pin, you can't see it, but it has like one of the little ball bearings on the end, so it can't just fall out.
Yep, it's got a detent ball on the end, so it can't fall out. And then, once it's in, I can't make it articulate without the bike on it, because it's got elastomer in it. There's a great video on our Facebook page showing it articulate. But when you turn the handlebars, you got this on, you're pushing your kit around, you turn the handlebars, the wheel kit articulates from side to side. So instead of pushing with your other normal wheel kits, you push it across the shop floor and you turn it left and the bike falls over to the right side. Turn it right, goes the other way. So this, you push it and the wheel kit articulates, and then you just push your bike straight around the corner or whatever,
It's so easy, dude. It's so nice.
And it rides. You can actually ride. I got, the end of last season, we had a couple rides where we parked, and then you've got to ride, 3 miles of dirt road before you can get back to your ride, and you just throw the wheel kit on, and it's, it's not like riding a motorcycle. You've got a awkward kind of steering setup on there, but it's designed to be used in the dirt too. It's not just for the garage floor. You can put it on and go ride it, ride it up the fire road or whatever to get to where you need to go.
No, it does a good job. Do you have, so that kind of leads into the whole rest of the spindle, because again, that was one of those things when I first saw the spindle, I was like, that thing does not look that beefy, but like, again, I beat the freaking piss out of that thing, and I don't know if it's the way it's designed or whatever, but yeah, I'd love to show the spindle and then explain how it hooks onto the forks, because the one thing with this particular setup, guys, is it does not clamp to your forks, so you don't lose any suspension.
Yeah, so there's a picture of the spindle from the front. The top lugs right here go through your fork axle. So you take your fork, the axle out of your bike. This is our fit kit pieces. We have custom pieces for all the different bikes that fit into your fork lugs. And then, I don't know, it's going to be hard to see the D-bar. You can see the flat spot on the top of the D-bar right there. That rests on the bottom of your forks. So you put the axle, our axle in, you pull it back so this D-bar sits tight up against the bottom of your forks. Super easy. You lock down your, the 2 bolts on each side, the fork lugs. You tighten the end bolt on our axle, and then I don't have it right here, but there's a bracket that goes off of this D-bar and mounts back to the lower caliper bolt on your fork. Yep. And that provides just a little bit of tension, or it's not even really tension. It's just holding back the tower so it doesn't rotate forward. Because without the ski stay is what we call it. Without the ski stay, if your bike is just buried and you reach down and you grab the front handle on the ski, you can actually rotate the tower forward in the clamps a little bit. With the ski stay on there, that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. You don't have one mounted on a bike right now that you could show?
Yeah, I do have one on a bike.
Just because it's so interesting and unique that it's like when you see it, then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so this is the old trusty CRF or CR250 here. But yeah, so you can see, you guys see that?
Yeah, go a little bit to your left. There we go.
There we go. So you got the fork axle, you got the custom spacers that go into your axle spot. You got this bolt that goes all the way through the spindle and threads into the fit kit piece on the other side. Tighten that up, pulls tension on there, tighten down your fork lugs, and then the D-bar right here sets up against the bottom of your fork. And that's what keeps the ski from rotating back towards the bike. So you don't You don't touch your fork guards. You leave them on. You don't have anything limiting your fork's full travel. And if you hit something hard enough, which is very rare, but if you hit something hard enough to where you have a failure, instead of ripping the bottom of your forks off, something, usually the brackets, where this D-bar fits in those brackets, the bracket will fracture out in the back, is what I've seen happen at like less than a handful of times in the 3 years that I've owned MotoTrax.
Well, dude, and even then, as I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking about for this season, like, dude, I could just buy 2 of those and have like 2 little spares. That'd be easy, and then you literally could fix it if you needed to.
You could, and honestly, Kyle, it's such a rare thing that the couple instances where I've seen it happen are, same thing with the rock I was just talking about, where a dude's ripping full speed across, through the snow and hits a guardrail under the snow, or is fifth gear wide open and hits a log that's under the snow or something. Like those really rare instances where like it's not, it's so rare that it's not worth carrying the extra weight even.
Yeah, well, and I think the one thing too, like last year I rode personally about 200 hours, and I was just like, I mean, I ride a lot, and between me and all of the clients that I'm taking and doing tours, like people they just do the stupidest shit, right? Like, so I'm always thinking about, oh, what am I gonna have out there? Because I don't want it to like ruin the day. And so that's mainly why I was thinking about it. Dude, Cameron so this is getting into the next piece, Cameron. Do you need to make the forks stiffer with these kits, or is the geometry of the rear suspension keep enough weight off front? And I'll let JP answer that, but this is what I'll say. I had this kit set up on my 300 2-stroke, and I remember thinking in my mind that, oh, I need to stiffen my forks, right? And I never ended up doing it. And so when I was taking the kit off this year, I'm like because I do that on all my forks. I just like them stiffer. And when I took out my forks and then I popped the top off, I was like, oh, I didn't change out the springs on this. I thought I did. And apparently I never noticed it like being super soft. And I'm running the Enduro ones, which are definitely softer. I think part of that was I did put a lot of lighter people on it as well, but I'm 180, without gear. So with my gear, I'm probably, 220, whatever. And, I never noticed that it was like bottoming out or doing anything funky.
Yeah. And that's comes from the track design. The pivot is mounted so far forward on the skid that the ski pressure is pretty low. I'd say, for an aggressive rider, I think, Kyle, if you were riding the MotoTrax kit, free riding it all winter long, you would end up wanting stiffer forks on it, stiffer springs.
Yeah.
A motocross bike, the average size guy riding a motocross bike is not going to need to stiffen his springs up on there.
I think for the guys that are the senders, right? If you're freaking hucking it all day long, then yeah, dude, you gotta have stiff suspension all around. So, but for the average person that's riding and they're not doing big jumps and stuff, I never noticed it was an issue.
On my KTM, I really dig the air forks on the KTM race bikes, and the stock setting is like 142 pounds of pressure. It all depends on what year you have, 142 to 146, and I run like 150 155 in my Snowbike kits. And I'm not a huge guy by any means. I'm tall, but I'm pretty skinny, and I like stiff forks on my motorcycle, on my bicycles, and I feel like adding 10 pounds of pressure from what I ride in the summertime gives me a stiff fork on my snow bike. So yeah, I'd definitely say it's ride it before you go and stiffen your forks up, because
and I say that for for every kit, really, anybody, it's like, go ride it first and just see. If you're like, oh yeah, this is way too soft, well then freaking stiffen your forks up, because everybody rides a little different weight. You know, there's so many factors that come into play. But yeah, I prefer a little bit stiffer fork as well, just because it's not fun bottoming it out when you're jumping off stuff.
No, and when you're going down through steep stuff, you don't want your front end packing up on you and riding low. You want it, you want it to sit high in the travel, for the most part. When
It's funny people that haven't, and that's how they're riding. And I'll ride their bike and I'm like, bro, you're freaking forks, you need to stiffen these up. And they're like, oh really, does it make a difference? And I'm like, ride my bike and you'll see. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm sitting up a lot taller and it's carves better. It's like, yeah, you want that front end up when you're going down steep stuff, man.
Yeah. And it's like everything, there's a balance. You go too stiff and then it'll handle good in the power. It'll be nice in there. And then you get on the roads and it's darty and,
yeah.
So got to find the balance, but we're close. Your stock forks are going to be close for anybody, I think, and the more aggressive you are, it's like everything. The more aggressive you are, the more modifications you got to start making.
Yep. Snowmoto jumped on here. He said that his high faxes were burning out on the front inners on their track lugs. I don't know if that was like something that you knew of or they addressed, or if that was just something that the inner track lugs. Oh, here. The front inner edges by rubbing on the track lugs. Oh, okay. So he's talking about like the front right here, it sounds like, is rubbing on the track lug. So I wonder.
What up, Hamish? Thanks for getting on, man. Yeah. That's Hamish down in New Zealand. He's we're all jonesing for snowbiking. Hamish is probably about ready to be done for the season.
Yeah, they're wrapping up the season. Yeah, I'm looking at.
That's not a problem that it really encountered. I don't know why it's happening, man. I get a hold of me and we'll look at some options that we can have for getting them out. But it's not a common thing that
I looked at mine. And I looked at my, the high faxes look great on the kit, and I think we had like 100 hours on it or something, 90 hours. So
yeah,
might be just one of those things where sometimes it's like, oh, this little tweak here. Oh wait, did he jump back on there? Here, somebody else said something. The D-bar in the front mount system chatters into the bottom of the forks. Does that happen to everyone? Chatters. Like makes noise?
Oh, I think it's wearing in. Me and Hamish were talking about on Yamahas, we have little cups that we put in the bottom of the forks for that D-bar to
like sit in? Sit in?
Yeah, so the D-bar rests against those cups, and me and Hamish had talked about putting those on us because he runs all Cowies, but we never got him put on there. I never on my Cowies. I didn't have an issue with that, but I don't. He's putting mad hours on the kits that he's riding. So get a hold of me, Hamish. I've got Cowie forks now. I can get all the measurements and we can get those cups out to you, man.
So basically like slide it over them.
No, it's more like on the bottom of the forks where your compression screws are. It's like, looks like the ones we use on the Yamahas is a little cup.
Fits on it.
It fits up in there, and then that D-bar resting on the bottom of your fork, it rests on that aluminum cap that we put in there.
That makes sense.
KTMs have I don't know have really solid. There's a little rubber piece on the bottom and a really solid fork base. Hondas have the same thing. They don't seem to have an issue. Until Hamish, we had talked about that last winter. I'd never heard anybody had problems with the Cowies, but yeah, it's something that we can easily address. Like I said, I've got Cowie forks now, so you don't even need to pull the measurements. I can just I can make them for you, man.
Sweet. Well, and that's all part of the stuff, right? It's like all the little things that sometimes, and the reality is it's like a lot of this stuff you don't even know until one person, particular bikes or whatever, like I was talking to someone about, the way the Cowie bikes, like the way they're mounted on the subframe, the suspension, and it was like thrown off something on one of the other Snowbike kits that none of the other bikes deal with. This guy, go ahead.
Oh, and the manufacturers are changing materials and forks and stuff all the time. So what worked for a number of years on a Cowie, even though the fit kit's the same, doesn't mean that they're making, the bottom of the fork looks the same. So the D-bars were working just fine for years on the Cowies without biting into the bottom of the forks, and they've changed something that
with the new
so now it's so it's stuff like that is easy to address.
So this guy Ilif, he says he's fat and out of shape. He's like 260 with gear, and his forks were fine. Oh, and my forks were fine with no spring change. For I don't know if you know who he is, but apparently he's got a MotoTrax kit.
Oh yeah, riding a sweet 120 kit.
Nice. So there you go. That's some more just testament to the fact that don't necessarily mess with your fork springs until you go out and ride it. So JP, what else? I know we were talking about, so you got the limiter straps, and then is there any other new things that you're putting on or that you have put on this year or that you're doing? And I wanted you to talk about the 3-inch track as well, because that's something you did.
Yeah. So we got this year, not a lot of changes. We got the limiter straps that the new kits are coming with. We've got, we're going to sell them there. They're not on the website right now, but they will be in the next day or two. And then the Alphas, we got a stiffer shock spring that we're putting on the Alpha kits this winter just to help them ride a little higher in the travel. And it makes a pretty big difference. You combine the stiffer spring with the limiter straps, and the deep snow performance is significantly improved. The trenching that people talk about is significantly less. So combine that with proper bike setup, snow bike to motorcycle to snow bike setup is key too for that trenching. We found last year, I mentioned earlier that, with the older kits, I like to run 10.5 to 11 inches of clearance between the fender and the top of the tunnel, where the Alpha is like a little bit more, they like to be up closer to 13 inches. Is kind of their happy spot for getting around in deeper snow. So, that those little setup changes make a big difference too.
Yeah, I was going to say just the little things. And, whenever people say certain things to me, oh, well, this one did so much better and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, first of all, you have to have an apples comparison. So if you're taking two different bikes and whatever, like that's not apples to apples. Secondly, let's see your setup, because I've seen bikes set up and they're not set up right. And
if you're going from one to another kit, the different kits, even on the same motorcycles, they're going to look completely different when they're sitting side by side. And if you're used to running a, whatever, and then you set up a MotoTrax kit, it's not going to be happy the same place a Timber Sled is, or a Yeti, or whatever it is. They're all their own, have their own little intricacies.
Do you want to talk about, I know, and this was something like the other day, when we were talking to Alan, he mentioned this, and this is, I think, the same for yours as well, as you can upgrade, as technology becomes available. It's kind of like what you've done, right? Is, you're going to have a couple new things where, hey, you put the new spring on, the limiter strap. So as you're upgrading things right now, these kits, the way they're designed is this is bolt-on type stuff, right?
Yeah. And that goes back to the original Scout even. I mean, it's a platform basically. The Scout has, there's parts off the new kit, that if somebody on their 2015 Scout can take some of the parts off of the MotoTrax, the new Alphas,
That's
and
wild.
put it on their Scouts to get them up and running. There's just a few pieces that work that far back, but if you have a 2017 MotoTrax kit, you can, depending on how much money you want to spend, you can take most of the components off of that and build yourself an Alpha. And I think it's really important that people are spending so much money on these kits that you don't want to every year have to just go buy a new Snowbike kit to get the new little things. So where we can, you have upgrades that the average person can buy and put on and see a significant change in their performance.
And that kind of ties right into the cost of the kits. I mean, your most expensive kit is your 2024 Alpha, the 129, and that's $6,600. And if I remember correctly, is it what is it, like $200 shipping or something? Flat fee?
Yeah, flat fee, $200 shipping anywhere in the US. And then that doesn't come with fit kit, so you got to buy a fit kit. So you're looking at $300 for that, $200 for shipping. If you're local, you can come stop by and pick it up. Won't cost you anything. You can stop by, you'll probably get a hat and a t-shirt or something.
So basically $7,100 gets you a brand new kit with fit kit and shipped out the door. And because you're on Shopify as well, guys, like if you wanted to, you can come on here. They got the buy with Shop Pay, Klarna. So you can get, you can do a payment thing, even if that's, if that's your jam and you don't want to fork out the cash right away. So that also makes it nice and easy to be able to buy them.
Yeah. And those, they're both, well-known, respected financing groups, and rates are what they are depending on who you are, but it gives you another option. So you can, you've got a dirt bike sitting in your garage, you can get yourself a snow bike, and your $7,000 to get into, out the door to get into a new Alpha. If you're just getting into snow biking and you don't want to spend $7,000, we've got our, the Mountain 120 kit that's $4,500. So you get a fit kit and have it shipped, you're like $5,000 into a 6 snow bike that, that's relevant. It's fully upgradable. So over time, if you want to upgrade it to all the Alpha stuff, you can slowly piece it together and build your mountain kit into an Alpha if you want. Or
and especially for people that are if you're Midwest, East Coast, you don't have the super deep snow and whatnot, dude, all day, and you're riding a lot of trails, all day long, you'll be just fine. With a 120,
you get that 20 mountain kit, it's gonna crush it. It's, it has all the same technology as the Alphas do with a real simplified suspension package, which, a beginner rider, somebody who's not slamming stuff, hitting big jumps, that's going to do you fine for years, maybe forever. I tell people when, a lot of people, when they're getting into buying them, they're like, well, why would I, what's the biggest difference between the two kits? I'm like, well, the suspension adjustability, the quality of the components are both high. They both have, good, reliable suspension components. You get more options with the better stuff. If you're the kind of person that just rides it, doesn't ever touch the clickers, you just go out and you ride it and you come home, then you probably don't need, the super high end kit that you can adjust and you can fine tune and you can do different stuff. If you're the guy that likes to tinker and tune on stuff and, try different little stuff for every situation and stuff, well, you're going to want the higher end stuff because it gives you the option to do that. Or, or the experienced rider and you're riding harder and doing more stuff, you want the better components,
Yeah, you want the better suspension and everything. And correct me if I'm wrong, your kits can all of them fit on a 150, right? Because that's kind of one of the big things is people hook these up on the Honda CRF 150s, right?
Yeah, you can put anything. We've got a fit kit for the CRF 150, so you can put any of our kits, on a 150. We recommend putting the 120 on there,
Yeah.
Just because it's less track, less rotating mass. But you got a your wife or a smaller person, you have an older kid, little kids, still a little bit much for him, but you got a kid who's riding an 85 or a CRF 150 and you want to get him out snowbiking, man. You put a 120 kit on that CRF 150 and those things rip. It's a real snow bike. It's not like the Polaris Ripper, which, they get around in the snow and they go stuff. Like the 150, the CRF 150R with 120 MotoTrax kit on it. Like if your kid can ride, he's going to go anywhere you're going all day long.
And then if they upgrade to a bigger bike, you throw it on the bigger bike.
Yeah, it's sweet because we all know how crazy fast kids grow up. So you take it off their 150R and then you throw it on their 125, or you throw it on their their 250 two-stroke or 250F or whatever it is. It's easy to use it for a season or two and then throw it on a bigger bike, and you've got a real snow bike that's going to last your kid for however long they want before they want to go up to a 129 or
Yeah, 100%.
So,
speaking of two strokes, because we put mine on a two-stroke. I can't remember. Had you guys had anybody else that you knew of that was running them on two strokes?
Oh yeah, that's like the last 2 years. It's kind of the rage. I mean, there's lots of people putting them on four strokes, but tons of 300 two strokes, man. That's like it's the best. Me and you have talked about it a ton. I mean, it's such a great spot because you got like the best trail bike in the summertime that you can get, really. The great power and maneuverability and everything. And then you put it on a snow bike, and as long as you can ride and you can keep it in the power, where to shift at and where to hold the throttle, man.
Yeah,
they kill it.
Hell yeah.
There's those days when you're like, man, I wish I had more power, but that doesn't matter if you're on a built 450. There's still days where you're like, man, I would
I tell people, I'm like,
95%
of the time I'm like, I'm having a ball. I mean, I'm always having fun, but there's that time where you're like, yeah. And then I hop on the 450. I'm like, oh yeah, on the really deep day. I'm like, yeah, the 450, it freaking gets it done. The 300, you just got to ride it harder, but I like it. Like I enjoy that. That's fun.
Yeah. It's a different experience. It's the same thing, but you just got to ride it a little different. You pick a little different lines and
it's 100%. Can you just kind of, as we start to wrap up here, I mean, we're already like 3 hours in, but that's all right.
Yeah.
That's, I've done a few of these, and I think the one Alan and I did, we were like 3.5 hours, whatever. Can you just highlight maybe some key like milestones, and I guess of MotoTrax up to this point, and particularly for you, right? Like, I mean, you're going now into, this is going to be like the full, like, you obviously last year was your second season, but I feel like it was almost kind of the first season because it was like you had a whole season on them. Now you're like, all right, let me make these changes. So now you're going into the second season with like these new updates and new upgrades.
Yeah, the big milestone one, buying MotoTrax first, getting through the first season and like actually, tripling the number of kits that were sold the previous couple years, like actually going from basically zero to not zero, but going from almost nothing to selling MotoTrax kits again. So I would say that was the first milestone, just like getting through that first winter and saying, okay, like people still want MotoTrax kits. They are still relevant. They might not be well known, but they have a place in the market. They work. People who are riding them are loving them. There's, if you see the haters and stuff out there, which there's always going to be the haters, but I talk to people almost every single day who have been riding MotoTrax kits for years or just got them, and people who absolutely love them, are diehard MotoTrax guys, just like you have, your diehard, whatever, Timber Sled or CMX or, people tend to love what they have. Because that's how we are.
Yeah,
that's our nature,
funny, right? I was just reading something about it. Everybody's going to always sing their praises of their stuff the most, and I get it.
Yeah,
and that's why it's been fun for me.
We take pride in what we have, and that's a good thing,
course, of course. Yeah, I agree, dude. I would say that's probably the biggest highlight for you, bro. Is like you freaking came into this, you know, really kind of having an uphill battle and having to come in and bring back the name MotoTrax, which is now people are wondering, they're asking about it, they're seeing them. You know, I know people that I rode with, guys, they're just like, oh, I didn't know MotoTrax was here. I'm like, yeah, freaking ride it, you know, like see what you think. And at the end of the day, there's nothing better. There's nothing that speaks more than just like riding the bike and riding the kit and having your own personal feedback, right? Like that's the best way you can do it. So, you know, as part of what we're continuing to do is like, guys, if you want to come ride all the kits, ride the bikes, whatever, come up here and ride with us. Like that's why we have these, is so you can try them all out. So JP, was there anything else there that you wanted to like highlight? Because I had a couple other just quick questions.
No, just the finish on the progression thing. You know, I think the milestones were one, getting through the first season, making it happen. Last year was a big deal, actually making some beneficial changes to the kit, you know, upgrading it. Getting into this season, you know, we haven't made as many changes, but we've got a lot of big things going. You know, I took the first year to get our feet under us, second year to address, you know, some of the things, get the kit where I think it's presentable. You know, we haven't made a huge social media push or anything like that because I didn't want to just be the person say, oh, we're MotoTrax, we're so great, you know, and not have anything to show for, you know. Now I think we're at a point where we've got something, not that I wasn't proud of it to begin with, but I think we've made some improvements and actually improved the product where it's noticeable on the snow, you know.
Well,
so
and you've been able to wrap your head around it because you've been in it now. So you're like, okay, I know what the issues were. I know what needed fixed, versus if you came out of the gate day one and you bought MotoTrax, you're like, buy MotoTrax. You're like, shit, I don't even know what problems there are.
yeah, no, exactly. And so we're growing, and, you know, and I feel like it, you know, it took one season to fix the glaring problems. Last year we made some improvements to make it really functional, and then, you know, going forward I've got some pretty big plans to continue improving the platform to, you know, to make it more relevant and, you know, keep growing. And we're at a point now where I feel confident, proud of what we have, and, you know, we're planning to do, you know, have a lot more presence in the industry going forward because I think we have a product that stands up to everything else that's out there, you know.
And I can imagine the gears are just constantly turning about, oh, what do I want to do? How do I want to tweak this, etc. And so talking about that, talk us through your 3-inch track conversion that you did last year, and anyone that has a MotoTrax kit, you've got this stuff to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's the rage is, you know, if you live in a place like we do where you're riding deep snow all the time, people want to try the 3-inch track out, and, you know, it goes both ways. Some days it's better, some days it's not. Some days you can, you know, you do just fine on the 2.5. Some days you don't. And so last year that was one thing I from the very get-go, people were like, well, when are you going to get a 3-inch track? When are we going to get one? Or can we put one on there? And so last year we got the parts together, you know, designed the different stuff to convert all the MotoTrax kits to run a 3-inch track. And it's you know, depending on what you've got, it's a pretty straightforward conversion. You got to buy, you know, the first gen 3-inch track from Timber Sled, and it goes right on the kits. You know, we got to do drivers, and
but you don't have to like
shaft.
cut anything or do anything. You just put the new parts on that you have, and you got a 3-inch.
Yep. You don't have to cut anything. You don't have to cut the track down. You don't have to do, you know, you don't have to hack your track up to get it to fit in there or anything. You put the drivers on, you got to get a new drive shaft, you put the drivers on, and and you go rip on it. And it's in the right conditions. It's great. I mean, me and you have talked a bunch about the 3-inch track. There's days when it's essential, and then there's days when you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, like you said, it has its place. And if you're riding steep and deep a lot, then the 3-inch skits are done.
Yeah, it's fun. It's it's a great option to be able to put it on there. I get people asking, well, when are you going to start selling 3-inch tracks? And that's, I don't know that that's going to happen for us for quite a while. We can get into all
people
the
have
talk
no
about,
idea how much money it costs to do all that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive to build a 3-inch track is a huge investment, and I'm stoked that there are people out there that have done it. It's great for the sport. It's great for snowbiking. I'm stoked that we have the ability to run it on our kit, because it's, for the right people, they're not going to do anything else, So I think it gives people that want to ride a MotoTrax kit but have to have a 3-inch for the riding they do, gives them the opportunity to get one of our kits and still have a 3-inch track.
And what is the stock track? What is the length of the paddles on them?
So it's 2.5. So it's, kind of the
standard.
The standard, that's that 2.5 goes back to the machinery that builds the tracks. They're all the 2.5 tracks are basically built on the same machine at Camso, and the rollers and everything that build the tracks will only build tracks up to 2.6 is the limit of how big of a track you can build on the original Snowbike track equipment.
Right.
And so to go bigger than that, you've got to have a totally new setup of equipment, and Camso has kind of turned over that original Snowbike track building tooling, I guess it's called, to everybody. So you can make your own lug pattern, they call it a mold. You can make your own mold and run it on the original tooling for the 2.6 or 2.5. But if you want to build a 3-inch track, Polaris owns their tooling for building a 3-inch track, and they're not interested in letting anybody else use it, which they spent a bunch of money on it, and I don't blame them. And Alan's got his the tooling to build his 3 1/4, and that's great. It's sweet for him, and I'm just it's the nature of business. You do what you can do.
Yep, for sure. Well, and yeah, I mean, everybody has their preferences and everybody has their thoughts on 3-inch versus the other. And again, a lot of that does come down to rider ability as well as rider style, because I know for me, like, I've ridden plenty of 3-inches, and like, they're great, but it's just not, it doesn't suit my style. My style is really aggressive, fast. I freaking spin the track, get that track speed up, man, and go. And our snow here in Montana, we don't have this like bottomless blower pow all the time that the guys in Colorado and Utah and BC get. Our snow gets set up a lot more. So a 3-inch for me, it's just, I don't really need it, right? Like, there are those days where it's nice, but for the most part, our snow gets set up pretty quick. The nice thing here about Montana and where we ride, and it's similar snow that where you guys ride, is we get very, very consistent snow. I mean, I ride snow bikes from December 1st until the end of May every year, no matter what the snow's like. Yes, the snow conditions change and vary, but we get so much good, consistent snow that we can ride a long time. And the 3-inch, just not something I really need. So,
well, that's, I talked to a bunch of guys down in, California, or guys out on the West Coast. They ride they call it the Cascade Concrete, or what, guys down in Cali. The guys down in Cali ride, they get huge dumps, and then 2 days later, it's super set up, and most of the guys I talk to down there, they're not interested in 3-inch track because you just don't need it, So it just depends on how you ride and where you ride.
Totally.
was interesting. Regan was on your podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was on the 2.5 all last winter, and he's, super badass snow bike dude. And he made the 2.5. Yeah, top of the top. And he got around for a whole winter on a 2.5, so.
Yeah. I'm curious to see and hear what he thinks about this 3.25. Like, it'll be, because obviously that guy's just a whole other level of snow biker, than mere mortals. Do you have anything like upcoming projects or initiatives that, the company's working on that you can share? If not, no worries. I'm sure you're working on some stuff, but I was just curious.
I mean, not anything that I really want to talk about. I mean, me and you have talked about a couple things. We've got something that I'd hope to have out for this winter that's not gonna be, maybe I think we'll start seeing some footage of it, midwinter or something. But we got something in the works that's just doesn't exist in the snow biking world right now. That I'm like, it was the first thing that I wanted to do when I bought MotoTrax, other than just get things running and get it off the ground. That I'm like super crazy pumped about, but I'm just not quite there yet. But yeah, we've got big things coming. And I maybe not change the industry from, completely, but I think something the industry is missing right now. And so there's cool stuff out there. We definitely got plans to keep going forward.
How do you see yourself and just the company as a whole? Like, how do you guys see yourself staying competitive, and, just adapting and evolving to the trends? I mean, I think you just touched on one of the things that you're not going to share with yet, but it's innovating. But is there anything specific that you have in mind that you can think of? I know that one was kind of that's kind of a big question, because at the end of the day, as the trends, we're seeing just the sport's just blowing up, right? And it's just going to continue. So there's so much room for all the players in the industry. And by having all the players in the industry, it's going to help grow the market more, because there's no single, entity that can just take the market and manage it and handle it. So as it's growing, go ahead.
I think the biggest thing that I think, and it's a huge challenge, is, there's whatever 5 or 6 snow bikes out there, brands, and each one of them does something different. They're all good in their own respects, and they, the different bikes or the different kits do, significantly different things. I think there's a couple that are fairly similar, and a couple that are, completely different, and they're really fun, and they offer a different experience. And I think, the closer you can get to a kit that does a little bit of everything with the flip of a switch, or something that's mounted on the handlebar, that you can go from pulling massive wheelies to climbing crazy steep stuff. I think that's probably, part of the progression. I don't think anybody's there yet that has a kit that does everything, so I think everybody's probably working towards that. But it's a challenge,
and
because
it's a marriage of bike and kit, right? So bike, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's how they interact with each other is a big part. And, I think we're a long way off from seeing a dedicated kit come out, so I think there's going to be a lot of improvements in the actual kits before you see a ready to ride unit.
Yep.
That's the pipe dream. That's a pipe dream for a lot of people, but I don't know for the smaller snow bike companies. I don't know if that's our pipe dream, because
But here's the thing, that this is what I love about snow biking. This is what I've told people. Like, even if that, and it will happen, when that happens, that does not mean snow bike companies are gone, because the difference of snow biking versus like snowmobile is there's still a shit ton of dirt bikes out there, and there will continue to be. And guys are going to be like, well, I don't I don't want to spend $20,000 on one bike. I want to just have a kit that I can swap on, you know, different bikes. And that I don't see that ever going away personally, but
Yeah, no, I don't either. There, you know, there'll be people if that happens that, and why wouldn't you want to? If you can get yourself a snow bike that does all the things that we love about, you know, our kitted snow bikes. You can get something that does all of the things we love about it, but it's got 80 horsepower or 100 horsepower or something. Well, who wouldn't want to ride that? But you know, you got to be able to drop the, you know, the 20 grand or 25 grand or whatever it's going to cost to make that happen, because it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be, you know, a $6,000 snow bike. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be 15 plus. I would assume the market's so small. And
yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, that will, I don't think that's going to, I don't think that's, I mean, it'll change the market, it'll change the industry, but it's not going to negate all the snow bike companies out there by any measure, you know? I don't see that happening. Well, dude, thank you so much, JP. This has been awesome. I think just to wrap it up, just more on like a personal level, but like, I guess what like, cause you know, as I've gotten to know you and hung out with you, like I can see the passion and I can see the drive. What motivates you to continue to do this? And like, what are your kind of, you know, personal aspirations within this industry?
You know, the two main motivating factors are just developing a product that I want to go out and ride, that gets me out and does the things that I want to do on it. Is the number one thing. I want to make a better product to suit my own needs, and that, you know, that's going to benefit our customers as well, because I like to do all the stuff that everybody else likes to do. You know, and the other motivating factor is, you know, I've got 3 little kids, and my 2 sons are like diehard snow bikers. You know, they're 6 and 4, and like they stinking love riding snow bikes. You know, they're like, when are you going to build me a snow bike for my Stanek, Dad? You know, and like, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know. And so just having the passion, you know, and them saying, you know, I want to work at MotoTrax when I grow up, or, you know, stuff like that. You know, building something that can be a legacy for my, you know, my family, and, you know, potentially if they choose to do that, which is way down the road, you know, something that they can do with me. You know, it'd be pretty rad to have something cool enough, one or some of my kids want to take part in when they're old enough to choose, you know. So
Heck yeah, dude. No, 100%. I appreciate that, man. And yeah, dude. Well, I'm super pumped that, you know, you reached out to me when you did, and that we connected, and you know, we got a ride last year together. We're gonna do some more riding this year, and more, you know, riding just I mean, I like to ride as much as I can. You know, that's why I started this this business. So I will and dude, you've been awesome. Like, guys, I just want everybody to know too, like, when JP, you know, when him and I worked together on with his kit, I mean, he was just like, dude, just tell me what you think. Tell me, like, just give it to me. However, like, don't sugarcoat it, you know? And I've been totally honest and upfront and told him everything. So, I mean, he's been great at just listening to feedback and wanting to make it better. And I think for any snow biker out there, like, that's all we can ask for. Like, if we're being listened to, and it's not just like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that's the kind of shit that's going to really put a bad taste in people's mouth, that they're not going to want to continue to ride a particular, you know, brand. So thankfully, you know, we've got a lot of good players in the industry, and people want to do better and listen. And dude, you're there. Like, I think, you know, when we go into the future, you know, and eventually people will be like, yeah, MotoTrax, I know who those guys are. And it's not going to be like, wait, who? Like, they're going to know, you know, and that's coming, dude.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I appreciate all the support and the opportunity to talk with you and everybody who's on here and who listens in the future. It's cool. It's great opportunity, and I look forward to where we go in the near future. And
hell yeah. Well, thanks again, dude. And guys, thank you. I know it's so funny. Every time we end these, I'm like so shocked at how many people stay on for 3+ hours. And we, a lot of people were on for like almost 3 hours. So thanks to all of you guys that stayed on, asked questions, and that will continue to watch this. If you guys ever have any questions, JP, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys? Obviously, you've got the website Moto, and it is here. In fact, I'll just show it real quick. It's Moto-Trax, TRAX.com. So phone number, email, is that the best way to kind of get a hold of you guys?
Get on a website. We've got a live chat option on our website that a lot of customers utilize, where you can just punch in, send us a text message, and if it's during operating hours, we'll get back to you pretty much immediately. If it's not during operating hours, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Shoot us an email, info@moto-trax.com, or just feel free to give us a call. Somebody will always answer the phone. We're 509-850-0889. And, somebody will be here to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. And your kits, I mean, this is, September 28th. So your kits are ready to rock and roll and ready to go, right? I mean, you're ready.
Yeah, we're shipping kits. We've got kits on the floor. We're building whatever you want all winter long, and so, yeah, get one now. If you can't get one till later, don't put it off till next year. I mean, the best time to get a snow bike is right now.
Hell yes.
Don't do like I did. Don't waste like 3 years not snow biking just because whatever. Just if you want to do it, you'll fall in love with it. I guarantee it.
Oh yes. If you ride motorcycles in any way, shape, or form, dude, it's the time of your life.
Yeah, get a snow bike.
There's
very few motorcycle riders that you talk to or get on a snowmobile. I honestly don't know of any motorcycle riders who get on a snow bike and are like, oh yeah, this thing kind of sucks. Like, if you ride a dirt bike, you get on a snow bike, you're like, oh my God, I think I like this more than riding a dirt bike. Like that, almost everybody says that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've taken hundreds of people now, and time and time again, guys, and I've taken guys that are just incredible riders, enduro, dirt bike, you name it. I mean, these guys, I've taken some former pros and guys that are they're amazing. And every single time they're like, dude, that's the coolest thing I've ever done. That's so freaking fun. Like, I want to, let's keep going. I always tell people that the two things that suck about snow biking are, well, one, I'm like, this is going to be the cheapest day is when you go for your first time, because after that you want to buy one, but it's also the end of the day, because you're like, damn, I'm not ready to be done.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks again, everybody. I see a bunch of comments here at the end. No kidding, I went one time and had to have one the next week. JT says get two. Yeah, or get like 10 like me, and just have a whole shit ton. So yeah, dude, they're fun. Well,
yeah,
cool,
don't let that stop you. If you don't have any buddies who ride snow bikes, get two, and by next winter you'll have at least 2 or 3 buddies who are all buying snow bikes.
That's right. Hell yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again, JP. Really appreciate it, man, and we'll be talking very soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, man. We'll see ya.
Bye.